on YouTube. Go to the VSiN.com YouTube page and look for VSiN Live. We appreciate you. Give us a subscription, a thumbs up. Let's go. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. Naya producing. Ryan as well. As we say hi, you heard Steve Torrey talking about it. Big news in baseball. New York Yankees right-hander Garrett Cole is going to undergo Tommy John. So that's a major blow, ending his 2025 season before it began. So that's some baseball news. But obviously the big news as free agency opens up today. So let's get started. I'm going to give you one as we start here. And we've got Rich Gannon joining the program, former MVP, talking about the quarterbacks and free agency coming up at 5 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock your time on the East. Alan Saunders is going to join. He is on the Steelers beat, and the Steelers obviously making big moves, so we're going to talk to somebody close to it. They still need a quarterback. And then Jim Root with some college hoops as conference tournaments underway right now, and then really a ton of them open up tomorrow. But the big news is NFL free agency, and desperation is a hell of an emotion. It blinds us. We've all been desperate in the past. It makes us irrational, and then you combine desperation with money, and money's a hell of a drug. So you've got a situation right now where players and teams are desperate. Players looking for money, teams looking for positions. Obviously, quarterback being the premium. And, for example, the New York Jets, now Arthur Smith couldn't get it to work with Justin Fields in Pittsburgh, but the New York Jets feel as though they think they can. They gave him $40 million, Justin Fields, for 2 years, so $20 million per for Justin Fields. And like I said, desperation, a hell of an emotion. You aren't, winning 6, maybe 7 games with the Justin Fields. That is a lock. You just know that going into the season. So the Jets, hoping for the upside that people have seen in the past from Justin Fields, most likely going to get a mediocre quarterback, and that is desperation. Now, as far as this one, I like what the Commanders are doing because the Commanders just got one of the best offensive tackles and left tackles in all of football to protect Jaden Daniels. They have traded for Houston Texans left tackle Laramie Tunsil. They also get a 2025 fourth-round pick. The Texans are going to get 2025 third, 25 seventh, 26 second, and 26 fourth. So 5-time Pro Bowler Dustin Swedelson, as we say hi, headed to Washington. Washington has done a lot in the offseason, if you think about it, because Washington also traded for Deebo Samuel, signed Javon Kinlaw, re-signed Bobby Wagner, re-signed Zach Ertz, and tight end John Bates. So they've been busy with one of the more promising teams in the National Football League.
Washington plus 225 to win the NFC East. Eagles the favorite minus 150, Patrick, and I would hammer the Washington Commanders right now. Look at what Philly is losing in division. They lost Milton Williams, the D tackle, going away to Carolina. They lost Josh Sweat, the edge, to Arizona. The Eagles played a lot of football last year winning that Super Bowl. They're on the right side of health. I think the Commanders, with the additions they're making, Tunsil to protect Jaden Daniels. He had a horrible offensive line a year ago and carried them all the way into the NFC title game. Kinlaw, huge upside guy. A lot of talent, ability to be a 3-down lineman. And if they can unlock that, and you expect a guy like Dan Quinn to be able to do that, it is a tremendous offseason so far for Washington. And I think Philly losing some pieces, this is about to be the start of that Washington run where they're going to win this division for a few years.
Yeah, so Washington, obviously a winner early on in free agency, but I buried the lead as far as the two big stories. So Sam Darnold is getting 3 years, $100.5 million, $55 million guaranteed from the Seahawks. So Sam Darnold, so they got younger at the quarterback position. We talked about it on Friday when the trade went down. The trade went down with Geno Smith heading to the Raiders right before we started the program. And all of a sudden, it started to leak that Sam Darnold potentially was in the Seahawks' plans. And we asked you straight up, and I'll ask you again, is this an upgrade? 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. If I'm a Seahawks fan, I don't like this offseason. So you traded away DK Metcalf to the Steelers, and that's more news. Metcalf to the Steelers. and then he signed an extension for like $150 million. So Pickens and Metcalf just need a quarterback in Pittsburgh. You cut Tyler Lockett, released him. A 10-win team last year. And so all of that, Geno Smith to the Raiders, and you got a second round and a day 3 pick. So you really haven't gotten a ton in return for what you've given up if you're Seattle. Seattle has obviously, Dustin, approached this as this is a complete rebuild. Now, the Darnold signing lets you know that they believe he is the future. 3 years for a $27-year-old player, but they gave him a ton of cash.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an upgrade down the road. It's definitely not an upgrade this year, and it's such a weird philosophy. This organization was a play away 2 years in a row from being in the playoffs back-to-back seasons. Like there's a lot of good things happening there. I guess Geno wanted an extension. They didn't want to give him one. But now Sam Darnold's leaving. I think this is such a mistake for Sam Darnold. And I understand there's a lot of money on the table. And this is a business, and this is their livelihood, and this is them setting up their future. But from just a football decision, this is a massive mistake. He no longer has JJ and Addison and Hawkinson and a pretty good O-line. He doesn't have Kevin O'Connell calling plays anymore, who's found ways to win football games with guys like Josh Dobbs. This is just a bad football move for Sam Darnold. And then for the Seahawks, I get it. I get what they think they see. They see the upside. They see a guy who's still young enough, who's still capable of being more, but he played really bad down the stretch. And it seemed like teams kind of figured him out when it mattered the most in critical situations. So the goal here is for Clint Kubiak to unlock him. Well, Clint Kubiak's another guy a year ago down in New Orleans who we thought he was the next head coach of the future, had a great first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, and that offense came right back down to earth. Sam Darnold's going to go from that trio I mentioned, JJ, Addison, Hawkinson. This is his receiving core in Seattle. JSN, Jake Bobo, and someone named Derek Young. It's going to be very different for Darnold next year.
Well, desperation with the Seahawks, they needed obviously a quarterback, so they reach and pay Sam Darnold off of one good season a ton of money, and then money being a hell of a drug. So those are my two themes. I agree with you. I think Sam Darnold would have had better opportunities, would have had better landing spots, and he chose the money, and he went to Seattle. Now, I'm not going to judge anybody for taking the drug. That is money. You do you, but I'm just telling you what it is, and I'll give you another example. The Browns have signed edge Myles Garrett to a 4-year contract extension. Now, he's going to get $123 million in guaranteed money on his new deal. This is a situation where the Browns could have offered Myles Garrett more money than anybody else. Myles Garrett doesn't want to be in Cleveland. And this is what I'm talking about, money being the drug. It's like, if your happiness depends on the cash, I'm not really sure. He said he didn't want to play in Cleveland anymore. He wanted to go to a team with an upside, with an opportunity to win, and that is not the Cleveland Browns right now. But he took the cash.
I kind of low-key respect it. He said, I want to go to a winner. I want to go to a Super Bowl contender. They said no. He said, fine, make me more rich and pay me to be happy. So I guess, you can take money as far as you can to make you happy. But in this case, $40 million a year, that's probably right on that edge of starting to make me happy if you're going to pay for my happiness here if I'm Myles Garrett. $123 million guaranteed. That's massive because he didn't have much guaranteed the rest of his deal. I'm not sure he had any guaranteed towards the back end of this contract. So now all of a sudden he's playing on a real contract where there's real money down the line. And unfortunately for Myles Garrett, he will probably never play for a winner unless he's ring chasing at the end of his career when he's no longer this elite player that he is right now. So for Myles Garrett, I kind of respect it. Okay, I can't go to a contender. Pay me for my happiness.
Okay, well, let me just push back a little bit because this always confuses me. Let's say he was making $20 million per year. You said $40 million per year would make you happy. Give me a discernible way making $20 or $40 million would change your day-to-day, second-to-second experience of life. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'm saying for him, Iris, if that's the number that makes him happy, that makes him happy. I can tell you this, my negotiations with VSiN, we are not in the 20 or 40 million range, so I'm not aware of the difference there.
Okay, yeah, I would imagine so. But again, I would encourage you, if you do get into a negotiation and it comes down to, I don't know, 30 or 40 million per, and an opportunity to be happy and live where you want and do what you want and achieve greatness within your sport and your vocation, I'd pick the latter. Some of this, and again, money being a hell of a drug, desperation, a hell of an emotion. So the Sam Darnold, 888-623-3646. I'd be curious to hear from, we heard from a lot of Seahawks fans on Friday. Now that this is a done deal and the changes have now kind of landed in Seattle, I'm curious to get your feelings. And then if you're a Jets fan, what do you do? What do you do? Well, I think Evan went on a rant. I didn't get to hear it, but my good friend Evan Roberts, he's a Jets fan, and he hosts a show in New York City. And apparently he went nuts. I don't know if he went nuts because he was happy. He tends to be a little outside the box. My assumption is he went nuts because it's just meh. Now, Fields is just 26, and, 2 years, $40 million. It's kind of borderline starter and backup money, but that is letting you know if his agent and he took less money because they realize he's not in a position to ask for any money, and the Jets are just like, yeah, we'll pay you this. You can't be too excited if you're a Jets fan.
Well, so I guess my question is, what else were the Jets supposed to do here? Because they're not bringing Aaron Rodgers back. Certainly Geno Smith and Sam Darnold, they've been down that road before. I don't think either of those were interested in coming back to New York either. Their options were pretty limited here when it came to upgrading quarterback. So they settle on Fields. And Fields is, I've just decided, he's either going to be someone that he's going to find the right coordinator that unlocks his potential and he becomes a legit starter, or he's going to get a lot of coordinators fired over the course of his career because it's tantalizing. The ability, the physical skills, there's a lot more there than we've seen. I remember watching him at Ohio State, and he could chuck it. He could air it out, and we're just not seeing that. There's no aggressive game plans from him. There's no risk. It's all very safe and conservative, relying on his run game. So that brings us to the Jets offensive coordinator. His name is Tanner Engstrand. Tanner Engstrand has worked under a couple of pretty good quarterback gurus. The first one being most recently up in Detroit with Ben Johnson. So we got to hope from 2020 to 2024 that this Tanner Engstrand guy had learned something from the best play caller we've seen in recent memory in the NFL. Prior to that, he was in college. Who did he coach under? Jim Harbaugh at Michigan and San Diego. So if this guy is creative, if he has a little bit of his mentor's ability to be a quarterback whisperer, maybe there's a chance he unlocks Justin Fields, but I lean towards the other side. I think Justin Fields is a guy who's going to get a lot of coaches fired in his career because no one can figure out how to get him to be the player he's capable of being.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are a tremendous warning to the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, anybody else that's looking to draft a quarterback in the forthcoming draft here in the spring. The Jets are a perfect example. If you don't hit in the draft, then you end up just kind of trying to piece it together the rest of the way. Oh, Aaron Rodgers was going to be the savior. He's gone after 2 years. Now you're looking at somebody else's cast off. Chicago got rid of Justin Fields to the Steelers for essentially nothing. The Steelers had him around for a year and said, yeah, we don't want him, and they need a quarterback. So it's like, I know the old adage is one person's trash is another person's gold, but they legitimately, Arthur Smith, who works well with a quarterback of his ilk, and that being Fields, was just like, yeah, Tomlin, we got to move on. We got to do something else. And the Jets were like, we'll take it. I'll take it. To me, it's just, you couldn't be just spinning your wheels more than the Jets.
No, there are some very mediocre quarterbacks that played in previous generations just going, man, if I was just born 10 years later, you know how much money I would have gotten in this type of cycle with free agency? Because we still have quarterback openings. I think we're also going to run into a spot here in the draft where I know this isn't like a really good draft class when it comes to quarterbacks, but I think teams that already have franchise quarterbacks are going to use second and third round picks potentially on a quarterback that's there for them because they don't ever want to be in this position again. The worst spot to be is a team looking to sign a quarterback because these free agent pickups just don't really ever work. I mean, how often do we see a quarterback not get traded, sign as a free agent, and that team has a lot of success? Cousins is the one that sticks out to me most recently. He was fine in Minnesota. And oh, by the way, Cousins probably going to be available again and going to Cleveland this offseason.
So I mentioned you got to hit on the draft. One of the former misses for the Jets, quarterback Zach Wilson, he just reached a 1-year deal, $6 million fully guaranteed with the Miami Dolphins. So again, those misses in the first round are just hopping around Fields and Wilson. And people think, as you mentioned, that they can be the one to kind of revive their careers. It's not a good place to be. You got to hit in the draft. And this year, it's not a great draft. Cam Ward, obviously going to be the first quarterback off the board. There are now rumors that Shedeur Sanders not only slipping out of the top 5, top 6, people talking about him slipping out of the first round. I'd be shocked because of what we're talking about right now. And that is just a dearth of talent at the position and people grasping at straws. Desperation, a hell of an emotion, and money is a hell of a drug. That's it.
I'll tell you this. If Shedeur slips into the 20s, the Steelers, should they make a move here and sign Aaron Rodgers, which it feels like that's inevitable, they will be drafting Shedeur Sanders at 21 overall. That is the perfect fit. That's the perfect guy to bridge to. That is what you do. You let a quarterback like that fall into your lap. I don't think Shedeur's capable of turning a franchise around like you need to if you're going to be a top 2 or 3 pick. But if he goes the right situation, and Mike Tomlin's a pretty good situation of winning, that would be optimal for both parties.
The only thing I would say about somebody like a Darnold, there were like the reports coming out before free agency, and Samich said it on the program as well, was that potentially the market wasn't going to be as robust for Darnold. So you're 27, you get paid in Seattle. Look, maybe Pittsburgh didn't want him, didn't want to commit to the 3 years. When I saw the DK Metcalf trade, as far as the Steelers, I immediately said Aaron Rodgers is going there because they're not going to re-sign Justin Fields to throw the football to and give $150 million to a wide receiver 1 alongside George Pickens to have Justin Fields running around in the backfield. That means they're going to bring a dude that can sling it, and that's going to be Aaron Rodgers. And I think the last time we checked, the market said Rodgers, the betting favorite to go to either the Giants or the Steelers.
Yeah, right now they're both the favorite at plus 125. You look down the board, it's the Vikings, and well, this was earlier today. The Vikings at plus 350 were the next betting favorite there on the list. Look, I'm intrigued by, I've wanted this all along. I want Tomlin. I want Rodgers together. I love that they're going to be able to stretch the field potentially, but Pittsburgh is not the best option for Aaron Rodgers. There is another option significantly better, and it makes way more sense for him and the organization because you look at Pittsburgh, sure, they have Pickens and Metcalf. You're not going to be able to get them the ball downfield because that offensive line is getting worse. They lost a tackle today, and I'm not totally sure Aaron Rodgers fits what Arthur Smith wants to do. And even if Aaron Rodgers is able to be like 70% of what he used to be, I'm not sure they're still not the 3rd best team in that division. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, this is the move that gets the juices flowing. I call up Minnesota. I be that bridge for them between now and J.J. McCarthy taking over. I join the best play caller in the NFL outside of Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell. I have Brian Flores' elite defense. I get to play in a division I know well, where the Lions feel susceptible losing both coordinators. We don't know what the Packers are. The Bears have a lot of new pieces to work in a first-year head coach, and I get to play indoors every game at my age. The Vikings are the best spot for Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Let's get to your calls. Darnold, Seattle. Fields, Jets. Metcalf, Steelers. Josh Allen got a new deal. And Laramie Tunsil, the Commanders. The Commanders, that arrow is pointing directly up because Jaden Daniels did that without a legitimate line last year. Now you got one of the best tackles in the league. Incredible.
Yeah, there's also a lot under my desk right now that's pointing way up when it comes to the Commanders. They get me excited.
Okay, well done. Let's go to Vancouver, talk Seahawks with Shane here on VSiN Live. Hi, Shane.
Hey, guys. I called you on Friday.
Yep.
Charlie Murphy, money is a hell of a drug. Good reference, bro. Hey, listen, it's a hangover Monday. I get up, and I told you guys on Friday we didn't want Darnold. We want to get right back to scratch, go to Howell. Let's rebuild. What's Darnold going to do when he does this It ain't going to work. I think they sold out. It's all smoke and mirrors. Darnold is an inside the stadium quarterback. Playing outside in Pacific Northwest, not going to fare well for him. Listen, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to listen to you guys off the line.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it. I don't know if you're the Seahawks. Here's what I would say. If you're the Seahawks, why not Sam Howell? Great. Why not absolutely just tear it down to the studs? Why bring in somebody that there are questions with the way he finished the year? And I'm not blaming Darnold for taking the cash, but why not, if you're the Seahawks, continue with the breakdown?
Yeah, you're kind of sending mixed messages if you're the Seahawks. Are you rebuilding or are you trying to compete this year? Because if you're shipping Metcalf away and you're cutting Lockett, and that, by the way, that offensive line is still terrible. This was making the rounds on Twitter. Geno Smith last year felt the most quick pressures, that's under 2.5 seconds, of any starters the last 3 seasons. And you sign a guy whose most famous quote is, "I'm seeing ghosts out there." There's a lot that they have to fix in Seattle. There's a lot that needs to be rebuilt, like from a foundational standpoint. I'm not sure it makes sense to get a quarterback because there is still the chance that maybe he's good enough to throw you into a few wins. And if you're rebuilding, winning takes you further away from getting elite talent in the draft next year.
They must believe Sam Darnold is a quarterback winning, and a Super Bowl winning quarterback potentially. That's the only reason you give him this cash. That's the Seahawks. Oh, by the way, Devontae Adams, a 2-year, $46 million deal here in Los Angeles, which is fascinating because that begs the question, what the hell is wrong with Cooper Kupp? Because Devontae Adams is older than Cooper Kupp, and they want to move on. If they can't trade Kupp, they're going to release him. That means the Rams know something about Kupp's health that must be dire.
No, he didn't look good. At this point, though, Adams is more productive and more reliable than Kupp. Kupp looked like he was really laboring, especially late last year. He has not been the same player in a couple seasons. So I love the move. I mean, we're talking about Metcalf and Pickens in Pittsburgh. Good luck defending freaking Adams and Nakua. They're both so physical. They go over the middle. They'll go up and get it. They stretch the field. Sean McVay's got some toys to play with next year.
Let's sneak in another one here before the break. Let's say hi to Al in White Plains here on VSiN Live. What's up, Al?
I hope you guys had a great weekend. I have to respectfully disagree on a lot of fronts. Number one, big fella, you said when was the last time a free agent quarterback was successful? Wasn't Sam Darnold a free agent quarterback?
Did he win a Super Bowl?
They went 14-3 for Christ's sakes.
I mean, it was
he
one
won a
year.
Super Bowl. Super Bowl is that's a pretty extreme.
All right. How do you do in the playoffs?
They lost, but that's pretty successful if you ask me. And where did you want him to go? The Colts aren't going to pay him. Pittsburgh's not going to pay him. They're busy spending $150 million on another nut job wide receiver. Okay, you're going to go to the Giants? You're going to go back to the Jets? Where's he going to go? He went to the best possible place. An excellent young coach. They'll draft weapons. They're well coached. They'll be fine in a division that's totally up for grabs. Niners are going to stink. All right? Cardinals always stink. The Rams. That's the division right there. Where else are you going to go and get paid? Nowhere.
Well, let me ask you, Al, let's flip it. Well, hold on. Let's flip it. Do you like the decision from the Seahawks perspective?
I just said I do, yeah. Absolutely. Geno Smith sucks. You're never going to – I don't care what his numbers say. You're never going anywhere with Geno Smith. Darnold's much better. He's younger. He's more mobile. He'll be fine. And they didn't pay him $50 million a year. They gave him, a middling NFL quarterback contract. They didn't break the bank. And I also like the Jets going after Fields. The guy's never gotten a fair shake.
Okay.
Didn't get one in Chicago. Didn't get one in Pittsburgh. You go 4-2 and let's go to the old man. And then you fall apart down the stretch. Let's stay with the old man. Enough with the old guys. Keep signing Rodgers. All right, to another. Pittsburgh, please sign Rodgers. Please sign him and watch your 2 wide receivers fight on the sidelines when you don't throw them the ball enough. I can't wait for that. I mean,
I respect. I mean, the Fields move, the way that you just explained it out and the way that Dustin explained it with potentially the offensive coordinator unlocking him. Okay, he's 26 years old, and Darnold's only 27. I just think you have to analyze, but again, there's a dearth of talent. You have to analyze, is this a quarterback that can win us a Super Bowl? That's the one goal. I I don't see it in Darnold, so I respectfully disagree. I don't see it in Fields. But when you start, if you're in the front office and you're having a conversation, what are we going to do? You realize a team like the New Orleans Saints just restructured to keep Derek Carr. You start thinking there's not a lot out there. There's not a lot of options. And that's the desperation.
In fact,
there's 10 people on the planet. There's 10 people on the planet that play this position either very well to well.
In fact, now that we're hashing this out, I think the Jets overpaid for Justin Fields. They should have offered him like $5 million. Who else was signing him? The Jets basically said, we need a quarterback. He's out there. It feels like this is the guy that makes sense for us because he wasn't going back to Pittsburgh. That was his only other option. Everyone else kind of has someone they're either trying to win with or trying to lose with or is paying too much money to get rid of. They should have called Justin Fields bluff and paid him absolutely nothing in year one.
The irony? You know the irony with Devontae Adams, though? He's best friends with Rodgers, but secretly he's like,
no, he can't
upgrade.
No, he can't. He couldn't follow
had an upgrade playing with Stafford.
Yeah, no, it's a massive upgrade for him. And to answer Al's question, the place I wanted Darnold to go was stay in Minnesota.
You got so bitter when Al asked you. You go, did he win a Super Bowl?
It was a 1-year deal. I'm talking about someone who signed a big contract. A Kirk Cousins, Kurt Warner got to a Super Bowl. I guess that would be successful, right? I'll give you that one. But these teams that go out and buy their quarterbacks in free agency, it doesn't work. Minnesota, to me, for Darnold, stay there. And how about this? Prove that the Vikings should trade J.J. McCarthy because you're the guy that can take them to the promised land.
Yeah, that's a good point. Did we hear anything as far as the commitment, lack of commitment? Did we hear anything from Minnesota as far as what they wanted to do or not do with Darnold?
You know what?
Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Go ahead.
That is a great question because I don't think there was very much leakage when it came to Minnesota and what they were telling Darnold and how far apart they were and what the deal. I don't see anything on Twitter. Now, Twitter was down for a portion of today. Thanks a lot, Elon. But I don't see anything about what number Minnesota was at that Darnold wasn't willing to meet them at.
It looks like Rodgers is going to have his choice. Does he want to go to the Steelers? Does he want to go to the Giants? That looks to be the case, and I agree with Al there. I mean, have fun with that quarterback. No. DK Metcalf is a Steeler. Metcalf and Pickens, they make a good 1-2 on paper. Do you like Fields to the Jets? Do you like Darnold to the Seahawks? Your call's next. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Sweat your bets with VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people that are taking advantage of VP Champ Week, which is over at VSiN.com. We're giving away free VSiN Pro access from now through Selection Sunday, and people are loving it. So it's no cost, no commitment. You don't have to do anything. You get to daily best bets, which is, sometimes 80 bets a day. Exclusive betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video. Also, you get the app, the VSiN app, which you can put on your smart TV. It's great. Get the insights you need to bet the tournament smarter. Again, no cost, no commitment. Go to VSIN.com/champweek to take advantage of it for free. All right, so now that we've got the names out of the way with the free agency, and we'll run through it again. The big ones are the quarterbacks, so let's just start there. So Darnold, I don't like it for Seattle. I think if you're Seattle, you just keep ripping it down. I don't understand giving Darnold the money. Is there a huge difference between Sam Darnold and Sam Howell? I'm not 100% sure. Is Darnold better? Sure. Is there a massive chasm? I'm not 100% sure. The Fields one, I can come around on. And I was just watching a video from Evan. He said, look, he's 26. We don't know if he's reached his potential yet. And that's a hell of a lot better. So, again, let's play a little game. If you are a general manager and you need a quarterback, what are you going to do? It's why when everybody called and said, don't give Dak Prescott the money, I have to follow my own words, and I would always admonish anybody and say, who else are you going to get? Dak's he's a good quarterback. It's a very good quarterback. So if you're the Jets, what are you going to do? Now, I know what I would do if I was the Seahawks. I'd continue to tank.
Yeah, I would get the number one pick in next year's draft. I would throw Sam Howell out there for 17 games, lock up and get no offensive lineman that could block him. Unfortunately, sacrifice his life and career for me to get the number one pick, for me to either get Arch Manning, whoever the quarterback is next year, or to trade out of that spot and acquire so many assets I can't screw it up as a new regime taking over there with a new head coach. I guess Schneider is still there, but you get my point. Is McDonald now almost made the playoffs in year one. Was this close to making the playoffs, and now we're going to give Sam Darnold less weapons and no offensive line, and we think we're going to do the same? You're not. You're going in the other direction here, and you're also doing it wrong. You're tanking incorrectly. You're rebuilding wrong. There is no middle ground. You either want to be winning or you want to be losing. You do not want to be anywhere in that middle.
But how about the Jets? Have you come around? Because I have. Because I have no clue what else they could possibly do.
Look,
they botched it with Rodgers, and they had to do so. They had to make a move.
You need to have. That's why I brought up the coordinator, because you need to have someone with some hubris, someone who's willing to be aggressive and take some chances and try and unlock whatever's in there. For whatever reason, Justin Fields is kind of this Ferrari that we're keeping in second gear. No one's really ever let him totally unlock his potential in the NFL. In Chicago, it was Matt Eberflus. You kind of saw how they managed him. It was awful, right? Then in Pittsburgh, they want to win, and they didn't want to lose. So they said, Justin Fields, don't lose us games. So he's never able to take any chances. If this coordinator that they brought over from Detroit that worked under Jim Harbaugh in college and at Michigan and San Diego, if this guy has learned any way to communicate and create a robotic quarterback for his system to develop him properly, then the Jets have a chance to unlock Fields.
I mean, the other names would be, and Mariota went back to the Commanders. He did a great job backing up Jaden Daniels last year. But, Carson Wentz, these are the names that we're talking about.
That's the point.
So
that's the point.
The Fields thing makes 100% sense to me. I was wrong.
And they were limited. They couldn't. There's only so many quarterbacks available who could start this year. And it's Rodgers that wasn't coming back. Darnold's never stepping foot back there again. And who was the other one that I'm missing? Geno Smith was traded for. And there's no way he was coming back to the Jets. Fields was kind of the only one that made sense. And also kind of the best upside play with a new regime that kind of has a free roll in year one.
Yeah, I like Geno Smith with the Raiders. I'll just say that clearly. I think potentially if they add around him it's a tough division, but potentially a playoff team. I believe in Geno Smith. By the way, there is a trade. The Browns are acquiring, and this is, again, be careful if you miss on the first rounder. The The Browns are acquiring quarterback Kenny Pickett from the Eagles in exchange for DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and a 5th-round pick, originally from the Lions, that pick.
Yeah.
So Kenny Pickett is now on his 3rd team and was a 1st-round draft pick a few years back.
Yeah, that just feels like for Philly, we're going to get a quarterback that I believe is cheaper on the salary cap, but also when Hurts goes down or has to leave a game or something like that, you now have DTR, who is a more mobile quarterback to use in those spots. Also, maybe we'll get some DTR packages on that offense so Hurts doesn't take as much of a beating. But one last note on Darnold, because we're all treating Sam Darnold like the Sam Darnold we saw last season in Minnesota is who he's going to be for the rest of his life. It happened one time with one coach, and every other piece of evidence we have of Sam Darnold in the NFL is a guy who has not lived up to the talent and ability we all saw when he was drafted in 2018. So we're all
I think your best argument would be the 15 wins. They didn't even want him.
They won 15 games. They said, nah, we're good. We'll figure it out on the fly.
Because they could have just franchised him.
They
didn't want to pay him that market.
You know what? If I'm Seattle, I have buyer's remorse, because if Minnesota really wanted him, they would have franchise tagged him and locked him up in some degree.
I'm going to whisper this. Darnold freaking stinks.
He might stink. Kevin O'Connell might be the smartest football mind we have right now, and Sam Darnold might stink.
It's terrible.
Kevin O'Connell's going to sign Carson Wentz and make the playoffs next year. That's what's going to happen.
888-623-3646. No, but I mean, that's a team to fade. 100%. Like, I know we thought we were fading them going into last year, but J.J. McCarthy's not ready, and they simply don't have an answer. But they still said the dude that won us 15, whatever that franchise money is, we're not paying him that.
Yeah, I saw Thor Nystrom had a report, who we know and covers the Vikings, that the Vikings offered a 1-year, $25 million deal, and that was it. I don't know if that's true, but that kind of tells you the stories. Even Minnesota, who won 15 games with him, still at the end of the year went, yeah, I don't know if we want to do this a couple more times. That feels like it's going to hold us back.
After the postseason last year, O'Connell, the general manager, and everybody was basically like, he stinks. What do you want us to do? We're going to move on. Sam Darnold.
No, but that's why they should have franchise tagged him, because they could have franchise tagged him and traded him and gotten something for him and hoodwinked everyone.
Well, hey, maybe we could be proven wrong. Maybe we're going to talk to Rich Gannon, an MVP, coming up in 20 minutes. Maybe he's going to say Seattle just won the offseason.
Okay. Rich Gannon played on a bunch of different teams, bounced around for a little bit before winning MVP. How much money would Rich Gannon have made this offseason cycle? He would have been a billionaire.
Yeah, he would have done well. Let's go to Florida here on VSiN Live and say hi to Mike. Hi, Mike.
Hey, how's it going, fellas?
Good. What's up?
Good. Hey, man, enjoying the show, man. Question, good riddance to Aaron. I think he's a cancer. I think he's Dr. Paul Barron. This guy looks just like him. Overpaid for Justin Fields. But my question, being from Florida State fan, what's going on with Jordan Travis? The kid was awesome at Florida State. Unfortunately, got hurt his last year, and they got holes for the playoff pick. So is he still on the roster or what? I'll hang up.
He is. Sorry, your phone's just a little off there, buddy. He is with the Jets. In fact, I think the Jets were thinking he could compete for the job.
He could be something.
They paid a big, fringe backup money for Fields. Fields is coming in as the presumptive starter. We know that.
Oh, no. Justin Fields is the starter. I like Jordan Travis. He's like an intangible guy, though. And he's that in-between college and NFL quarterback. Like, he might get some starts and have some run in the NFL, but the reality is he's really just a tweener and a backup. And he also benefited from having 2 legit NFL receivers at Florida State, so that played a role as well. Like, he had the big guy, Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman to throw to, and they made him look really good. But, I mean, Justin Fields, if anyone could ever just build an offense around his legs and let him air it out, he has all the ability. He's back with Garrett Wilson, right? He's got a guy he already has chemistry with in this offense. I also think that offensive line is going to play better than it did a year ago. Aaron Rodgers was a statue last season. Justin Fields is going to make that O-line look a lot better.
Roger. Ugh. A year older, more entrenched in conspiracy. Bring him in.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, we do know Ben Johnson, when he was interviewing for that Chicago Bears job, I think he had one focus, and that was the offensive line.
Dude.
I believe they've added 5 new offensive linemen.
Dude. They signed the center from Atlanta today. They had 2 offensive linemen a week ago. They also got Grady Jarrett from Atlanta, the defensive tackle who was released today. They got an edge rusher they added. I mean, look, I'm not saying they're going to win the division. I'm just saying at plus 425, if Ben Johnson is the genius you and I keep saying he is, we should be putting our money where our mouth is, because he's going to win Coach of the Year at plus 750. And they have enough weapons and pieces and help around him in the trenches where that team can contend in the division.
The Bears?
The Bears. I'm telling you.
Oh, Bears are making the playoffs.
They're 100% making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, stop. This was a team that was overrated in the market last year.
Yep.
But they had a donkhead head coach. They had the youngest offensive line, didn't have an offensive line, and a rookie quarterback. They now have legitimately the best play caller I've ever seen, and he's going to develop the quarterback. They're going to be fine. They have weapons on the outside. They're going to be a playoff team. Let's go through. Let's you and I go through a couple of our winners and losers when we come back. As far as, and it could be under the radar. It doesn't have to be a big splash. And 888 Mad Dog 6 888-623-3646. A free agency thus far, as Dustin said, this has been kind of an avalanche this year as it opens up today on a Monday, March 10th. And then we have Rich Gannon at the top of the hour. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, your home for hoops is SiriusXM NBA Channel 86 at 8 Eastern. The two top teams in the West battle it out for the second straight night. Denver Nuggets take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Then at 10:30 East, the New York Knicks continue their road trip with a stop in Sacramento to face the Kings. Catch all the action on NBA Radio Channel 86 in your car or on the SiriusXM app. Okay, we do what? That is actually a big one. Is it 9.5? With now again, remember they're doing this to mitigate travel issues, so teams are sticking around in one city and playing back-to-backs. Denver got crushed yesterday in Oklahoma City, and SGA went off, lengthened his lead in the MVP market over Jokic. I think they were 7.5-point favorites. Oklahoma City yesterday covered, and I think it jumped up to 9.5 today.
Yeah, Jokic was questionable, dealing with an elbow. Murray questionable. Looking at the starting lineup now, Nuggets will start Jokic, and Murray's in the lineup as well. Westbrook starting, Christian Braun starting because Aaron Gordon is out for the Nuggets tonight. Pretty much everyone's going to give it a go. I believe even Chet Holmgren going to play his first back-to-back of the year for Oklahoma City. So I don't know, man. I want the Nuggets to be the team that can beat the Thunder in the playoffs. In the regular season, it don't look good. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it's 9.5 in the market right now for Oklahoma City. Bets going down in the Family Bets Discord. If you want to join along, stop by and say hi. If you're watching the program on YouTube, streaming live, we appreciate you. VSiN Live, YouTube. Give us a subscription and a little thumbs up. We appreciate you. Get the algo going. All right, winners and losers. We've got Rich Gannon coming up at the top of the hour here on VSiN Live. Winners and losers. I'll give you one winner off the jump, and it's DK Metcalf. It's the Steelers. Here's why. Yeah, they had to pay him a fortune, but he's never missed a game in his career. He's 27, and you lined up his number of years with his prime. So you just got one of the better wide receivers in football, and you signed him through his prime, into his prime, I should say, at 27 years old. Yeah, you had to pay him a ton of money, but he might be even better than he's shown, and he's shown a hell of a lot. So I like the move by the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love the idea of two physical guys that can go up and get it. The question is if they can find someone who can get them the football and let them make plays, but it's nice to see the Steelers have that vertical game again. You know, for so long with Big Ben, they were able to just find these guys, random names. Antonio Brown was not a household name. Remember Mike Wallace? Remember Emmanuel Sanders? These are guys that were awesome there in Pittsburgh and really didn't do anything anywhere else. So, I mean, for an organization that usually finds receivers, them trading for one, it's nice to see them have an elite guy opposite Pickens again. My first winner here is the Patriots. Apparently, Mike Vrabel prefers to have legitimate NFL players on his roster. I know it's a wild take up there in Foxborough, but for years it was Bill Belichick trying to do more with less and prove how smart he was. Gerard Mayo just didn't move quickly enough in the rebuild. They made a couple of really big splashes today. They bring in Harold Landry from the Titans. He was awesome as an edge rusher under Mike Vrabel there in Tennessee. They bring in Milton Williams, who was a monster for the Eagles down the stretch. They get an offensive tackle in Morgan Moses, who's a veteran, been around the block, a little bit older, but that's probably good when you have a rookie quarterback in Drake May. They grab Carlton Davis, the corner from the Lions, who's solid, maybe a bit of an overpay, but he's certainly better than what they were throwing out there. And they just added Matt Collins, 2 years, $8.4 million. If he's your wide receiver 3, you're in a good spot. They still need a wide receiver 1, though, and a wide receiver 2, but I like Matt Collins as a wide receiver 3 for the Patriots. So they're making a lot of moves just to improve that roster overall because that team was awful talent-wise the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's a good one. Flurry of moves from a team that's deficit in talent, that being the New England Patriots. My next winner is the Washington Commanders. Already NFC Championship game without their best offensive lineman who got hurt. They just added one of the better tackles in all of football with a trade and Laramie Tunsil. They brought back vets and Wagner and Ertz. They got Deebo Samuel on a one-year deal, show and prove. He's going to be on his best behavior. He can go opposite of Terry McLaurin. I love what the Commanders are doing. Commanders are going to be a problem So I love what they're doing.
Yeah, when the regular season ended, we kind of said the Super Bowl odds, I think they were around 18-1. That feels kind of short. Or right now, if you told me I could bet on the upside of the Commanders at 18-1, that's what it is right now over at DraftKings to win the Super Bowl. That's a team I want to buy stock in. That's a team that's going to be there. I think they're winning the division. I think they can contend for the 1 seed next year in the NFC. The Tunsil move is so big. That line was so atrocious last year, especially down the stretch in the playoffs. It is a massive addition for them. It kind of changes everything. I love that. The other team that's a winner, we mentioned the Bears. They're one of my winners, but I'm going to give some credit to a random organization here. The Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if any of these moves fix their problems, but I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 moves today by the Jaguars. So at least they're acknowledging the roster isn't up to snuff. Their secondary was so bad last year. I was betting player props on receivers against them every week. They grab Eric Murray, the safety out of Houston. They get the cornerback Jordan Lewis from Dallas. They bring over some offensive line help because the offensive line was really bad a year ago as well. I got to give the Jaguars some credit here. I like that they just made a lot of moves because that roster was not good enough to compete in the AFC South.
By the way, have you, and this is not saying anything in a disparaging way, have you seen the Jacksonville Jaguars general manager?
He's 12.
He might be a college kid.
No, he's 12. He's 12.
He might be now, I've seen him speak, and he's super impressive. You got the head coach Donk with the Duval. But the general manager that they hired, and good genes maybe, because how old is he? Can you look it up? He's got to be early 30s. He has to be, because he looks like, if you told me he's a senior, you told me he's a junior in college, I would have been like, makes sense. I mean, the kid looks young.
I had to Google his name first. James Gladstone, not related to Joey Gladstone from Full House. Let's see. Does he even have a Wikipedia page? He doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Hold on.
He's busy today.
He's 34. There's no way he's 34.
He doesn't look 34. I'll be curious to see what Gannon has to say about my loser. I just didn't like what Seattle did because I just assume, I don't know if there's a discernible difference between Sam Howell and Sam Darnold, and you just gave Sam Darnold money and you're tearing down the franchise. Just keep going. Lean in.
Yeah, go all the way. My loser, the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones had a quote about being aggressive in the offseason. Let's see. Javonte Williams, 1 year, $3.5 million. They re-signed their safety, and they re-signed their long snapper to a 3 year, $4.5 million contract. Not exactly sexy things happening down in Dallas.
That nailed it. Get that long snapper wrapped up. Get the fan base happy. Rich Gannon, SiriusXM NFL Radio, VSiN NFL analyst, of course, NFL MVP. He joins us next here, VSiN Live. It's Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Now back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, streaming live on YouTube, of course, here on Mad Dog Sports Radio, and over at VSiN.com. We're giving everything away for free until Selection Sunday. So if you've been dubious, you want to go find out what VSiN.com's about. We're going to give you the picks. We're going to give you the splits. We're going to give you everything we offer for free. We've never done this. I've been with them for 6-7 years. They've never done this before. No cost, no commitment. VSIN.com/champweek to get it all for free right now. Okay, speaking of VSiN, NFL analysts over at VSiN, also you can find them on SiriusXM NFL Radio. Of course, Rich Gannon, 2002 NFL MVP. Great guy as well. And NFL free agency going nuts today. So we asked Rich if we could get a couple of minutes, and he was kind enough. Hi, Rich. How are you?
Guys, doing well. It's great to be with you. What a crazy day. I tell you, I'd love to be an agent right now.
You'd like to be, you know what? Myles Garrett's agent would be a good one. But let's start with the Jets, because initially with Justin Fields signing a 2-year deal, I thought, I don't love the player. But then the more you kind of suss it out, Rich, it's like, who else are they going to get? He's only 26. Maybe they could unlock something.
Yeah, you know what? It does make some sense. Look, I'm sure they scoured the free agent wire, looking at the available quarterbacks. They're looking at the draft. They're evaluating where they're picking, and they're looking at all their options. And they say to themselves, you know, what's the best situation for us? And I think, you know, Justin Fields certainly has some upside, guys. When you look at what he did last year, he's 4-2 as a starter. You know, he took care of the football just through the one pick. But here's what you got to ask yourself. If Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin really believed that Justin Fields gave them the best opportunity to win, they would have stayed with him. Instead, they decided to go at Russell Wilson. And even down the stretch where Russell was struggling, the offense wasn't scoring points, they were reluctant to put Justin Fields back in there. So I think it tells you a little bit about how they feel about Justin Fields. In fairness to Justin Fields, I mean, you look at his one-loss record, he's 14-30. And I think those first 3 years in Chicago were a blur for him. I mean, I don't think he was ready to play. They threw him out there before he was ready to play. There was some coaching changes and play caller changes, and I think that had an impact on his overall development. But he's a terrific young talent. He can move around. Obviously, he can create and manufacture some offense. Where he has struggled has been functioning from the pocket. You know, when you do a good job setting the edge, you force him to sit in there and go through the reads and progressions. That's an area where he has struggled with his accuracy, anticipation, and decision-making.
Rich, screw being an agent right now. You need to be a free agent quarterback in this class. You'd be a billionaire. You'd have more money than God if you were available right now. When it comes to Sam Darnold, can you explain what we saw growth-wise before we get into the fit in Seattle? What you saw growth-wise with him under Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, and if you think that's something that they can replicate in Seattle?
Well, I just think it was the perfect storm for him. I think when you really look at Sam Darnold's career, we just talked about Justin Fields, the quarterback that was thrown in there before he was ready. That happened to Sam back in 2018 when he was with the Jets. He threw as many interceptions as touchdowns. I think he had 15 or 16 interceptions that first year, and he struggled. And then, of course, I think he lost some confidence. The team lost confidence in him, the coaching staff. The next, after 3 disappointing seasons, they kick him out the door, and he winds up in Carolina. That was not a good situation. Matt Rule was in his first year. Joe Brady was his first-time play caller. He struggled a little bit. He threw more interceptions than touchdowns, and then eventually, like the Jets, they kicked him to the curb. He goes to San Francisco in 23. I think that was a good landing spot for him. He got with Kyle Shanahan, Brian Greasy. He got a chance to watch Brock Purdy. And then when he went to Minnesota in 24 last season, I mean, it was just the perfect storm. I mean, it's, Kevin O'Connell's played the position. He's coached the position. He was brought in there to compete with J.J. McCarthy. Of course, McCarthy gets hurt in the preseason, and Sam, just takes advantage of the opportunity. The best thing he did last year, when you look at his body of work, was take care of the football and clean up the decision making. I mean, that's the 35 touchdowns, the 4,300 passing yards. I mean, career best in just about every major statistical category. But the decision making and ball security was a huge improvement over what we saw from him, even going back to his days at FC where he had 39 turnovers in 26 games.
Rich Gannon, SiriusXM NFL Radio, VSiN NFL analyst, joining us here, VSiN Live. So the quarterback out there is Aaron Rodgers. The market, Rich, says he's either going to end up with the Giants or the Steelers. Do you think he has something left to help a team take that next step?
I do, and I think if I were Aaron and I was his agent, this would be a really easy decision. I would get on a plane to Pittsburgh as quickly as I possibly could. Look, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. This is a team that can, they were already in the playoffs last year, and you look at where Aaron is, and I would say, guys, let's not overreact to what we saw last year. This guy's still a very capable player that's extremely motivated to finish out his career on a high note.
So let's say Rodgers does go to Pittsburgh. He's got DK Metcalf. He's got George Pickens to throw the ball to. Talk to me about the fit there with that system with Arthur Smith. How do you think that offense looks, and can they be better than third in that division?
Anything is an upgrade over what he experienced last year. If you really go back and study the film and you watch Aaron Rodgers and the body language, he was very frustrated, guys. He was disappointed, I think, with players not being accountable, receivers not being in the right spot or not getting the right depth or not running the right route, the protections, communication breakdowns, obviously the firing the head coach, replacing the play caller. I mean, that's not what Aaron was accustomed to when he was in Green Bay with Mike McCarthy and later Matt LaFleur. So I think, I just think if I were him, I'd want to go somewhere where there's some stability, there's a level of professionalism, attention to detail, accountability, and they have that in Pittsburgh. And you mentioned the roster. I mean, DK Metcalf is a rare and unusual player for the position. He's got the size, speed ratio that you love. You add George Pickens in. They've got a couple good running backs. And I would just tell you that I think that with the defense that they have there, that is, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I mean, I can't get to Pittsburgh quickly enough.
Rich, did you like the decision of your former team, the Raiders, Pete Carroll, Tom Brady, and the general manager to trade for Geno Smith?
I think it makes some sense, guys. I think it's certainly an upgrade over what they had. You look at Geno Smith's numbers the last 3 years. He's played winning football. He's a guy that, is very talented, very competitive. Football's important to him. I just look at where they're at with that roster. I think, Pete, they're trying to win now. This isn't one of those situations where let's see what we can do in a couple of years. Pete's 73 years old. He'll be 74 this fall. And I think they're all in. They're trying to grab a hold of this division. It won't be easy when you look at the coaches and play callers and quarterbacks in that division. And I think Geno Smith gives them a chance to compete. But I'm not convinced they're done, guys. I still think, if you're smart and you're Spytek and you're Pete Carroll, you're continuing to look at the draft, maybe not day one, but an opportunity to bring in a young quarterback to create some competition down the road.
Are there any quarterbacks in this draft class, which I know it's light on franchise starters is what all the evaluators are saying, but is there someone that jumps out to you, Rich, that you think has a good upside that you would like to see the Raiders select?
Obviously, everyone's talking about, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, and, I don't know that they'll be around, but, I think there's a couple that may be around it. Jackson Dart, who knows if he has a good pro day and people, it only takes one, guys, to kind of fall in love with him. But, I think he's a talented player. I like the fact that, he was with Lane Kiffin, and, Lane is obviously coached in the NFL. He's a terrific play caller, but, when you really look at him, he's like a lot of the other quarterbacks that I studied in this draft class. I think he needs some work on some of the fundamentals and mechanics and footwork and drops, anticipation and accuracy. But he's a talented guy. He's a talented prospect. He's been exposed to a pro-style offense and a good coach in Lane Kiffin. You go back and look at the third down tape last year. Seems to understand down and distance situation of football. Pretty good decision maker, good anticipation and accuracy, and on back shoulder throws that you can tell he really likes that. Good versus man-to-man needs to be better and speed up the decision-making at times versus some zone concepts. But he's a good-looking kid that loves football and if given the right circumstances, I think all these guys need a chance to develop. I don't know that we're going to find one that, is a Jaden Daniels in this class, but there's a couple of guys that I think, in the second day that have a chance to develop into good players in this league.
Rich Gannon, SiriusXM NFL Radio, also VSiN NFL analyst. Free agency opens up. We got a few minutes and appreciate it, Rich. Thank you so much for the time.
No, my pleasure. See you guys.
Okay, thank you, Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon 12 on Twitter. So the one that keeps on jumping out at me, and I just want to run this back because he just said the name Jaden Daniels. I don't understand what the Texans are doing. The Texans are in win now mode, and they just had a quarterback. Now maybe there's something with Tunsil that we're not understanding as far as personality, because I think there's been questions in the past. I don't want to disparage the kid, but if you look at pressure rate, and our buddy Brett Coleman dropped it, I mean, it just comes down to him and Wirfs down in Tampa as the best tackle in football. Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders for a 2025 third rounder, a seventh rounder, 26 second rounder, seventh rounder, pardon me, this year, along with the third, and then next year, a second rounder. To me, you're getting a Pro Bowler, and you're not giving up a ton to protect Jaden Daniels. It's just a steal.
The Houston Texans got significantly worse today. Even with Laramie Tunsil a year ago, an elite left tackle, C.J. Stroud was sacked 52 times. 52 sacks a year ago. He got beat up. And now you take the only really good offensive lineman you have and you trade him away. I'm very confused, unless they're trying to allocate that money to spread it around and have just a really solid offensive line. It is a weird move on a team that, based on the moves they made a year ago, expected to be competing for Super Bowls in that rookie contract window with CJ Stroud. It's a weird move to make that type of decision and remove a left tackle when the rest of your offensive line was awful last season. I don't understand the move at all.
Yeah, the Broncos. So, of course, San Francisco's in a bit of a tough spot with the cap, and so they moved on from Deebo Samuel. They also are losing linebacker Dre Greenlaw, who is awesome. The Broncos are expected to sign Greenlaw, giving him a 3-year deal worth $35 million. So a good deal for the Broncos there. 888-623-3646. So, again, there's a lot of action. And my themes I wrote down this morning, I was like, desperation, hell of an emotion, and money, hell of a drug. And the money part goes to what we were talking about earlier with somebody like Myles Garrett. He went from being unhappy to being thrilled with the Browns just because of cash. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and I mean, he pretty much locked up that he's not competing for a Super Bowl anytime in his prime. Like, that's it. The Browns are so far away. I don't know what they're going to do in this draft, but to sign an extension and stay in Cleveland after saying you wanted to contend for Super Bowls, it's not happening in Cleveland, man. So you're probably going to be back in this situation again in a couple years.
The trade today that the Browns made leads me to believe that Stefanski thinks he can win with Kenny Pickett.
Well, no.
Pickett's going to get an opportunity to start in Cleveland.
You can't do that. Kevin Stefanski's going to get himself fired. He's going to get himself fired if he does that. The only problem is his best other option is Kirk Cousins. Like, that's the talk, is that they want to bring Kirk Cousins in. So you have a hobbled up Kirk Cousins, who, by the way, I would take a flyer on over Aaron Rodgers. I know they're both coming off the same injury. I think last year Cousins did have an arm injury. It was very evident. I believe it was the Denver game where he could not throw the football at all, that something had happened to either his elbow or shoulder. I'd rather have Kirk Cousins next year than Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is done.
Free agent Darius Slay, remember? And this is Josh Sweat went to the Cardinals. Josh Sweat was in the Super Bowl, was incredible. So the Eagles losing pieces. Darius Slay, who's tremendous for the Eagles, is signing with the Steelers. Jordan Schultz is reporting. So, and Rams are planning to release wide receiver Cooper Kupp at the start of the league, new league year, which is Wednesday. That makes obviously after Devontae Adams, Kupp they've been trying to trade him. They made it very obvious so people could, but Cooper Kupp obviously not well.
Yeah, I don't know where he ends up.
He had one of the great years a few years back the wide receivers ever had.
He's an interesting piece just because I think if there's a team competing for a Super Bowl that wants to treat him, you're gonna crush me for this comparison. This is not very progressive of me, but similar to how Adam Thielen looked at the end of the Vikings run, but now he popped again down in Carolina. Maybe there's a spot for him as a wide receiver 3 on a good team where he can be a reliable safety blanket for a young quarterback. But outside of being that, he's going to really just be a guy who ends up with a bad football team. That's it right now at this point in his career.
$30 million guaranteed to Justin Fields with the Jets. So 2-year, 40, 30 guaranteed. So the money's not terrible as far as sucking up cap. It's kind of a show improved contract that they're giving to Justin Fields. Gannon said it. He went 4-2 as a start. Now here's the confounding part. And I never thought they should have switched to Russell Wilson. And when they immediately switched to Wilson, he was bad, and then he got a little bit better, and then he got terrible. By the way, we haven't heard anything today about Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins.
If that,
but 4-2, and Gannon pointed this out, going 4-2 as a starter with the Steelers and not making mistakes, and Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin still made the decision. Now, there could have been an agreement that was made with it. This stuff goes on behind the scenes with agents and all this. It could have been sticky with Wilson, and so maybe they had to play him. I don't know that answer, but they did go away from a dude that went 4-2, and now Fields is a Jet.
Yeah, look, Russell Wilson, if that's the starting quarterback for my New York Giants next year, I will not watch a single game. I am not. That does nothing for me. That doesn't interest me. Throw Tommy DeVito out there for 17 and get me Arch Manning at that point. Do not waste my time. And it's offensive to act like you're winning football games with Russell Wilson at this point. He is so risk adverse. He just protects the football. He can't make plays happen. I want no part of that. When it comes to Fields, though,
you know what your Giants want to do. I mean, it's very apparent. They want to sign Rodgers, and they want to move up and draft Cam Ward. I don't even think they're hiding it.
No, that's what they want to do. I don't think they're going to be able to do both of those things. I think they're going to end up drafting Cam Ward. They're going to trade up for that pick because I don't think there's a lot of competition that wants to do that. And it'll probably get Daboll and Shane fired. But on the Fields thing, that defense for the Jets is still pretty legit. There's a lot of great pieces. I almost called him Aaron Jones. What is his name? Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn knows how to dial up a defense. And if he can just get Justin Fields to be like semi-productive, they could be an interesting, fun team to watch next year.
Keyshawn Johnson said, quote, "I look at Justin Fields as like a mini Jalen Hurts. He has some of the same athletic traits. He's much faster. In fact, he's bigger, and his arm is stronger." Okay. If that's the case, then congratulations to our next caller, Hayden. You got a good player in Justin Fields. Are you happy? Hayden.
The Jets. Great day for the Jets. By the way, I think he will be he'll break the Jets record for most rushing yards by a quarterback within 10 games.
most like, well, it certainly wasn't Rodgers. So you're happy with the move?
Oh, thrilled. We're at the George Costanza part of our life. Whatever we've been doing for the last 50 years has not worked. So we just need to do the opposite. So we've never had a running quarterback before. So let's try one and see we're a Northeast team. Let's just throw crap at the wall and see what sticks. No, I really do. Athletic, he can run. The way the game is going, you need a kid like this. That's just how I see it. Either you have a great quarterback or you don't. If you don't have one, you want a kid like this. And I think with Garrett Wilson, the two running backs, we have three running backs actually. You throw in Isaiah Davis with Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. I think this kid, what's his name? Enstrang, the offensive coordinator. You might know better than I would. You're a Lion fan, Patrick.
No, you said it well.
And so I just think the guy's got to. We were the worst coached team in the league last year. We cannot get any worse in that category. If you want to argue with me, go watch the highlights of the Denver game where we scored, I think, 9 points in the rain, and we threw the ball 4 straight times from the half-a-yard line, despite the fact we had Braylon Allen. So I'm just excited. Get me to September, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I'm more. My initial response, I think, was a little derelict when it came to breaking down Fields, just because I was going with the perception. But if you dig a little bit deeper into it, and then you start to think, well, what else would you do? You're not going to sign Carson Wentz. That's not the answer. Mariota's he's a great backup, but he decided he was going to stay with the Commanders anyway. You're not going to go Russell Wilson. Fields is 26. You know what? The more I think about it, it's a no-brainer for the Jets.
It's the best upside play. That's what it is. It's the best possible upside play for the Jets. They need someone who has potential to show they're trying not just for now, but in the future. He's a guy who's got so much talent. He fits today's NFL. I agree with Hayden. When I see all these fun, flashy running quarterbacks around the league, I think I want one. The problem is my team had one, and his name was Daniel Jones.
Oh, what's going on with Jones?
Minnesota, probably.
Is he under contract?
No, he's a free agent, I believe. Let me double check that.
But they're gonna re-up with him.
You would
Maybe
think
not
so.
the answer. I wasn't even thinking about Daniel Jones, but when we were talking about what Minnesota's gonna do, maybe O'Connell's like, Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold is the Spider-Man meme pointing back at one another. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, let me see.
He feels
Daniel
like
Jones.
he get wins out of Jones.
Hang on. He's on the Vikings, maybe. He might be on the Vikings.
Well, we know they traded for him.
Sure. No, they signed him. So maybe they signed him to a 2-year deal last year. But
Okay, so he's under contract.
Look, Sam Darnold's one thing. He went to USC. He at least throws the football well. If Kevin O'Connell wins football games with Daniel Jones, change the damn trophy to the Kevin O'Connell trophy from the Lombardi trophy. That'll be the greatest coaching job of all time.
I don't know.
All right, no, he's not. He's a free agent. Josina Anderson. League sources on Daniel Jones think he's still trying to make a decision on where he wants to go.
Well, how is Daniel Jones making a decision? The teams have to decide they want Daniel Jones.
Apparently, there is a robust market for Daniel Jones. Sir Daniel of Dimes.
Let's go to Chicago here on VSiN Live and say hi to Amen. Hey,
Hi.
Amen.
I wanted to weigh in on Justin Fields because we had him with the Bears and I understood why we had to move on. But I wanted to point out that in his last year with the Bears, in the last 8 games, he was 5-3 as a starter. And when we got offensive linemen back who were injured, he played pretty darn good, I thought. And then he also played well with the Steelers and led them to a 4-2 record. And I think that at $20 million a year, which is cheap for a quarterback, that he could surprise. And he gets to play with Garrett Wilson, who he had a lot of success with. And
It's a good call. Listen, the more I think about it, we were talking to Bill Zimmerman. The way that Fields, remember, the Bears 2 years ago finished awesome. That's why Eberflus kept his job.
Yep.
Down the last 7 games, they were great. And Fields was very good. And there were conversations about it. Were they going to keep Fields or move on from Fields? You know what? A+ from the Jets.
It's an A+ because you have a free roll in year 1. You didn't overpay for him. He's not making a ton of money. And if you can somehow find a way to squeeze that talent out of him, get him to be the player that, like, he was drafted where he was, where Chicago traded up in that, 2021 draft to take him. Like, this is a guy that has all the skills to succeed in today's NFL and really hasn't gotten a fair shot. He's never gotten properly coached. He's never been put in there in a situation where the team around him is good enough to win. I think this Jets roster is better than it's being given credit for. They have a couple good offensive linemen. They have good weapons with Wilson and a stable of running backs. And the defense is going to be elite. Oh, by the way, they have a top pick as well. I saw a mock draft that had them taking the Michigan corner Will Johnson in this year's draft. If they draft Will Johnson to go opposite Sauce Gardner, it'll be the best secondary in the league.
Yeah, there was an insidious, like, that thing got ripped apart from the inside out. And you could tell that Jets defense was just like, the offense ain't into it. The coach got fired. Rodgers fired Saleh. You pretend like it's anybody else. You lost your freaking mind. Rodgers didn't want him. He got rid of him. And then you just kind of saw the whole vibe of the team. It's just gross. Rodgers,
the defense got to a point where they were just saying, how much more can we do? We're limiting teams. We're slowing down offenses. And our offense is doing nothing to keep us in games. At some point, they're human beings. They're just like, you know what? Let's live to fight another season. This is a waste of our energy.
When you were talking about the Patriots, did you mention they got Mac Hollins on a 2-year deal?
Yes, Mac Hollins added very recently, wide receiver 3 for them. They made a lot of really good moves because that roster was so bad. I mean, just so bad. Harold Landry's going to make an impact right away. Milton Williams will make an impact right away. Carlton Davis at corner. Morgan Moses at tackle. Like, Mike Vrabel might make the postseason year 1 in New England with Drake May. No, he might. He might.
No, I don't think so. But
he might.
Good luck with that. Keep betting it. Don't get mad at me. I'm not Alan White Plains. Don't get upset.
Said he might. Didn't say he would. Said he might.
You got the Patriots in the postseason. That is a bold.
Hey, teams go worst to first every year, and it's usually one that we didn't think of.
They do. Alan Saunders, Steelers, they're in the news. DK Metcalf, the big trade and extension, and they need a quarterback. He joins us next. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. Welcome back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay, after winning the NASCAR Cup Series Shriners Children 500 at Phoenix Raceway yesterday, Christopher Bell has gone to victory lane 3 weeks in a row. We are breaking down the incredible starts this season and all the other major storylines right now on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio Channel 90 and on the SiriusXM app. We do welcome you back here, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, also streaming live on YouTube. Go check it out on YouTube right now. You can check out our next guest as well, who's joining us via video. Alan Saunders does a great job covering the Steelers, obviously free agency opening up today. SteelersNow.com. He's on the beat at @Saunders_PGH. Alan, thank you. I know it's a busy time. Let's start with a quarterback that left, and that is Justin Fields to the Jets. 4-2 as a starter with the Steelers. Do you think there was conversation about keeping Fields around?
Not only do I think there was conversation, I think that would have been what the Steelers preferred to do. But I don't think they were willing to go where the Jets went in terms of contract amount. 2 years, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. I feel like that was at the very high end of what maybe I was thinking Fields might get. I think it was pretty far away from where the Steelers wanted to be. And so they decided to let him go, basically, and not match that deal from the Jets. And they're going to deal with what's left now.
Well, what's left, Alan, is Aaron Rodgers. And before we get into the player, the question I think most people are wondering, and you would know this from dealing with Mike Tomlin a lot, is can those two personalities coexist before we even get into a contract negotiation? Could Aaron Rodgers be the type of player who plays for Mike Tomlin with kind of everything that goes into the package that is Aaron Rodgers?
I think if you ask this question to Mike Tomlin will tell you that there is not a type of player that can't play for Mike Tomlin, and he would be offended at the implication that there was one out there that he couldn't coach. He lives for that, for the building together of unique personalities. I don't think he would be opposed to it. Look, I'm not sure that Aaron Rodgers is the right fit for the Steelers. He doesn't move very well anymore. They haven't pass protected very well. There's lots of reasons to be skeptical of it, but I don't think that's one of them for me. I think if you're looking for a coach to wrangle some personalities, I think Mike Tomlin should be in the top tier.
Yeah, I think he's misperceived. I think he's like the ultimate players coach. Tomlin kind of gets along with everybody. Alan Saunders joining us here talking Steelers. DK Metcalf, I'd like to get your reaction as far as the trade and extension, and how about the Steelers fan base reaction?
Yeah, I think an exciting move for the fan base, one that they needed to make, to be honest. Like they messed up at wide receiver last year. It's just there's no two ways around it. They traded Deontay Johnson. They were tired of him, and obviously that deciding to move on from him looks like a great move in hindsight, but then they never replaced him. They weren't able to find that other receiver to put with George Pickens. They obviously tried very hard to get Brandon Ayuk throughout last summer. They weren't able to do it, and it hurt throughout the season. You just watched the offense stagnate, and there was no one that could get anything easy. You know, George Pickens is a particular type of receiver. He's very good combat catches and down the field, but he's not your like 3rd and 3 gotta have it guy either. They didn't have one of those. I'm not sure DK Metcalf is that either, but they needed to do something. They could not even allow another day or two of free agency to go by without addressing the wide receiver position, given how they mismanaged it last year. I think he was probably the best wide receiver available when you look at who was out there in free agency and on the trade market, and I don't think they paid an exceptionally high price for him to get him, so I think it was a good deal for the team. I think the fan base is fired up, although I think they'd be a lot more fired up if they knew who the quarterback was going to be.
Yeah, so were they in on Sam Darnold before he signed with Seattle? I don't know how their cap situation would have played out with the money Darnold but it felt like making the move for DK, adding another passing weapon. Like they wanted someone who could sling it a little bit. Did the Steelers actually have an offer or any interest in Sam Darnold?
There was a report by Diana Rossini that they were expected to make an offer. I know they at least had some conversations, both internally about whether he was a good fit and were expected to do so externally. I just don't think they were interested in playing in the sort of realm of contract that he got over, what was it, about $33 million a year, a little more than that. I don't think they were really interested at that level. They may have had an offer out there, but I don't think it would have been competitive with the Seahawks were willing to do.
Alan Saunders, SteelersNow.com beat writer. Look, it's got to be Rodgers, Alan, unless you have an answer outside of Rodgers. My assumption is it will be Rodgers relatively soon. If not, who else?
Well, Russell Wilson could come back, and I don't think that the locker room would be particularly excited about that, and I don't think Arthur Smith would be particularly excited about that because I don't think he was a great fit for the offensive scheme last year. But I think there's a very real chance that if like one of these guys could get left out and not have a spot, and so like I think the Steelers will be in a position of pretty solid leverage if they want to get a guy cheap. I really think the what the Steelers are telling us with their actions is that they didn't think any of these quarterbacks that were available to them were long-term answers at the position worth paying, and that they just want a bridge guy to get to what appears to be the idea of drafting one in 26, which looks like a good quarterback class. The draft will be in Pittsburgh. Oh, by the way, Drew Aller is right down the road, and he's definitely a first-round pick. Like, it seems like there's a lot of momentum building towards that. So I just think they want whoever's cheap. Maybe it's Russell Wilson. Maybe it's Daniel Jones. I don't know. Like, I don't think they're satisfied with any of these options. So it would not surprise me to see them go off the board and just be like, hey, we got somebody for a 5th-round pick. How about Joe Milton? Like, just hey, we're going to take a shot on somebody, and then let's get to 26.
So, but your point originally about Rodgers not being a fit, I think makes a lot of sense. They lost an offensive lineman today in free agency. They've had issues protecting quarterbacks in the past. How do you view this offseason going with them aside from quarterback? What other holes do they need to plug here? And do they have any chance of being better than 3rd in this division?
Well, they're going to need a running back. They did tender Jaylen Warren today, but last I heard, Najee Harris was closing in on a deal with the Chargers. I'd expect that to get done tonight or tomorrow morning. So, yeah, they'll need another running back. I think they're in pretty good shape overall. We'll see what they do with George Pickens. I don't know. I don't think they're going to extend him now that they've given all this money to Metcalf. Will they keep him? Will they trade him to get some of that draft capital back? I don't know. I think they'll be active in this, adding another wide receiver. A guy like Cooper Kupp, I think, is like something they don't have. I think the idea is just to quarterback proof this roster and to put it into a position where, look, I love Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is not the reason the Eagles won the Super Bowl. The Steelers want to have a roster like that so that when they get that quarterback, he doesn't have to be Lamar Jackson. He doesn't have to be Josh Allen for them to be good. He just has to be good enough. Right. And so anything they can do to bolster the rest of this roster, maybe Kupp isn't the best fit because he's older, but I think that's what they're going to look to do. I think it's a really good draft class at running back. So that may not be something they're going to look for in free agency, but it wouldn't really be surprising to me. We see him go out and grab another wide receiver. Wouldn't be crazy. Andy Weidl's their assistant general manager. He has a lot of influence in personnel. He was with the Eagles under Howie Roseman. Like, it would never shock me if they go get another offensive lineman. I'm just always under the assumption that is on the table given their philosophy.
Alan, last question. We're talking Steelers with Alan Saunders. You mentioned the Eagles, a great defense. The Steelers, I think the Steelers have a great defense. Did they add or lose anything defensively today that I missed?
Yeah, there's a deal with Darius Slay on the table that is, I think, not 100% finalized, but I expect to go through. He's one of those like post-June 1 guys that the Eagles haven't cut yet. So it's like, I don't know, it's like gray area situation, but I expect that to go down. He'll replace Dante Jackson at outside corner. They'll still need a slot, but I assume they'll find one of those somewhere along the way. And they added Malik Harrison, a big linebacker from the Ravens as well. Pretty much status quo. They cut Larry Ogunjobi. I think that was expected, $7 million against the cap. And I think defensive tackle is probably the number 1 position for their first-round pick. I love Kenneth Grant from Michigan. We'll see if he's there at 21. But I think the defense is going to still be very, very good.
Would you be shocked if they did take a quarterback at 21 overall? I know some of the mock drafters have Jackson Dart going there. Some of them think that maybe Quinn Ewers in the 2nd or 3rd round. Would you be shocked if they drafted a quarterback as well this offseason?
I guess there's probably like a chance that like Shadur Sanders gets down into the teens and maybe they make a small move up. I don't know. I'm not a believer of that theory, but I've seen some people put it out there. I do not like Jackson Dart. I think they have a level of interest in all of them, but without a 2nd round pick, needing a running back, needing a D tackle, probably wanting to look at wide receiver and corner. I have a hard, like this quarterback class is just not very good. I have a hard time seeing quarterback being a significant value at one of their draft picks until you're talking about the 6th or 7th round.
Alan, just fortify up front on both sides of the ball. When all else fails, get an offensive lineman, get a defensive lineman. Don't reach for a quarterback. They did that with Kenny Pickett and got burned.
No, absolutely. I'm thinking more like take a flyer on a 3rd rounder that you think you can develop. But, I mean, the biggest thing he said was he's not sure Rodgers really is a fit from a schematic standpoint, which opens things up to, like, who is? Because if they really want a mobile quarterback, the name he threw out there at the end, Daniel Jones, that would be the one that kind of reminds you of Ryan Tannehill, similar skill set. Arthur Smith got a lot out of Ryan Tannehill down in Tennessee. Good God, could you envision a world where the Steelers go out and add Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I could. I think people are completely mixed. I know you're totally down on Jones. I'm not. If it's Daniel Jones or Russell Wilson, for me, it's simple.
Yeah.
It's Daniel Jones. If the option is frankly, if it's Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers at this point, I think I'd go Jones just because I don't want to deal with Rodgers.
Yeah, well, like what is
everything that comes with it?
What is the percent chance that Aaron Rodgers plays playoff quality quarterback play this year? I put it at like 15%. I don't think there's anything left. So Daniel Jones, at least, it's one of those deals similar to Justin Fields with less success. There's untapped potential. Watching Daniel Jones as much as I did with the Giants, it's not a physical ability thing. It's like a processing thing. And maybe the Giants weren't coaching him up properly to process what he was seeing. I would give Arthur Smith the benefit of the doubt just because I saw what he did with Ryan Tannehill, and that guy was like 2 plays away from being out of the league, and he turned him into a playoff quarterback. So Daniel Jones could be an interesting fit there. I just think he's really slow at making things happen and making decisions.
What did he say about Pickens? Is Pickens, I guess his rookie deal is going to be up here soon, huh?
Yeah, he's due for a payday, and then there's some big drama brewing with him. Well, there's always drama with him, but DK Metcalf also wears number 14. So is Metcalf going to try and take that number from him? What are they going to do with Pickens? What's his future look like? But yeah, Pickens is due for a deal, and I'm not so sure that the addition of Metcalf wasn't like Metcalf is making the money that they were going to pay Pickens. I think Pickens may be out.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-30. So they went, I mean, Metcalf better than Pickens, but they went right back to where they started. They have one wide receiver because Deontay Johnson, but it became very clear that Johnson wasn't just a Steeler problem. Carolina couldn't wait to get rid of him. Baltimore couldn't wait to get rid of him. And I think he ended up on another team.
I think Houston actually had him, released him, and then picked him back up at one point. So something was happening there. Yeah, look, they may keep George Pickens, and they may have those 2 outside weapons. I don't know, but the vibe I got was DK Metcalf is the beginning of he's the new wide receiver 1, and they'll find another wide receiver 2 down the road. Because they can't pay everyone, and they got to pay some offensive linemen too at some point.
All right, free agency. The 2 big ones, obviously. Well, Metcalf a big one as well, but the quarterbacks. Fields with the Jets, Darnold with the Seahawks. Get your reaction, 888-623-3646. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio, as we welcome you back. Jim Root's going to join us at the top of the hour talking college hoops, conference tournaments. Tomorrow is going to be an avalanche of conference tournaments as we are officially underway. Today we had, what did we have? West Coast, Horizon, Big Sky, Southland. You had the finals in the Sun Belt and SoCon.
SoCon happening right now. It's a close game. Let me pull this up. They're in a commercial break. Wofford jumped out to a big lead. Furman is chipped away to make it close. Furman went to overtime with Chattanooga yesterday. So let me just get this score for you here before what did I say? SoCon, it's 79-78 with 3:43 to go.
All right, tight game there. I just saw this tweet, it made me laugh. The Yankees lose the World Series, lose Juan Soto, lost Garrett Cole to Tommy Johns. It's been a rough few months for the Bronx Bombers.
Yeah, and the Garrett Cole signing, it's like another one of those Yankee deals that doesn't result in anything. Like a lot of money. That he's been good, but it hasn't resulted in titles with him. So I hate to see it for them because I thought that they could potentially be fun, but now you're relying on guys like Rodon and Clark Schmidt to do more. You're going to have to put Cookie Carrasco in the rotation or Stroman in the rotation. That's not a recipe for success. But one thing I will tell you, the trendy thing right now, Patrick, everyone's like, buy on the Red Sox. Red Sox winning the division. Everyone is still underestimating the Orioles and all the potential of all those young guys. I would go Orioles before I go Red Sox. I think those kids are going to continue to get better.
Talking free agency, NFL, it's kind of dominating the day-to-day. It's not a crazy NBA schedule. And as I mentioned, most of the conference tournaments that matter yet to come. And I don't mean to disrespect the smaller conferences, but you know what I'm saying. Let's go Louisiana here, VSiN Live, and say hi to Adam. Adam, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right. I just think I'm looking at all the free agency stuff that's gone down. I like what my Patriots have done. And real quick, before I mention that, on the Justin Fields thing, I'm not a big Justin Fields truther, but I don't think that there's any reason to think that this makes the Jets worse. I don't know that I'd say that the Jets are going to light things up all of a sudden with him, but I don't hate it. I love what the Patriots have done, though. Patriots have gone out. They've addressed the fact that they know they have an offensive line issue. They signed a tackle. They still got another hole there that they need to fill. They went out. They got a top-flight cornerback to go opposite side of Christian Gonzalez. They went out. They got a good defensive lineman. I think the Patriots are gearing up, and I'm not saying they're going to win the division like was suggested earlier, but could they be competitive? Absolutely.
Yeah, they've made a ton of – do you have in front of you all the moves the Patriots have made? Landry, the pass rusher, makes sense, right? Because he played for Vrabel down in Tennessee.
Yeah, and he was awesome. That's the thing. He was freaking awesome when he played under Vrabel. Milton Williams, who was awesome in the playoffs for the Eagles at defensive tackle. They're bringing the veteran offensive lineman Morgan Moses on a 3-year deal. Carlton Davis, the corner from the Lions, previously down in Tampa. Robert Spillane, who was with the Raiders last year, was a fan favorite, really aggressive linebacker. Popped originally with Pittsburgh a few years ago. And then they re-signed tight end Austin Hooper. And then wide receiver Mac Hollins, 2 years, $8.4 million. If he's your wide receiver 3, I like the situation. You got to get a 1, you got to get a 2. But I like Mac Hollins in there as a good veteran option.
Yeah, the Patriots busy, had to be busy, got busy. Vrabel in as the new head coach, so different vibes there in New England. Here's our buddy Art in Los Angeles. Hi, Art.
My guys, how we doing
What's
tonight?
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Patrick. Thanks. Hey, so guys, I got a betting question for you before I get to some free agent chatter here. I'm not a betting guy at all, so when I hear stuff like let's say win totals for the Dodgers when they say 100 games, juice to the over. What does juice to the over mean?
So if the Dodgers are set at 100 wins, you have to pay more to bet over that number. When they're saying juice to the over, meaning you have to pay more juice to get your money if you want to go over on the Dodgers.
And you get a better price on the under.
Yeah, it's a plus money price. So let's just say, for example, it's plus 110 on the under with the Dodgers. You bet $100 on the under, you come back with 100. You come back with 1,100.
Gotcha. Okay, so not only do I get my great sports information, I learned to become a degenerate gambler on here. I love it.
Be careful. That's all we'll say. Be careful. What do you think about Darnold?
Man, I like it, guys. I just don't know if it's the perfect match for him. I think with Pittsburgh, there's a lot more continuity and a little better coaching, in my opinion, better weapons. But can we just please also temper this New England Patriots talk, Mr. Swedelson? The last time New England spent a bunch of money, if you recall, guys, what was it, like 3-4 off seasons ago? Maybe 3 off seasons ago. They spent a bunch of money. They broke the bank, and they signed guys like Jonnu Smith at tight end and a bunch of guys, and I don't know. And then, of course, it all came crashing down. So all these free agent signings that New England has made, I mean, most of these guys are just guys. They're just guys on the back end of their career. Carlton Davis, this is his third team in 4 years. And then Harold Landry, I mean, his best days are well behind him. So I don't know. Let's chill out, guys. I got you guys at 6.5 wins.
Oh, thank you. By the way, $1,000, $1,100 coming back plus 110. You understand? Listen. I'm not saying anything to you, bro, because I know how mad you get. So I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. But people don't like your Patriots to the playoffs prediction.
Yeah, well, I mean, just think about the division, right? Buffalo will win the division again. Jets have a new head coach. They have Justin Fields at quarterback. We're talking about potential here. We're not talking about things we've seen from them. Who knows what the Jets look like this year? The Dolphins are your second shot in the division at plus 475 to win the East. And you know what happens? If Tua goes down, they're the worst team in the division again. So, and Tua goes down a lot, right? He gets hurt a lot. So all of a sudden, there's a couple more wins on that Patriots schedule. You have Drake May with the game slowing down. Maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself with playoffs, but they're going to be a better football, more competitive football team. There is a path for them to squeak in.
Yeah, but I would just say, listen, you're right. A team generally goes worse to postseason each year, but did the additions the Patriots made today make up for the deficiencies on that roster last year? Because that roster stunk last year.
No, that's the problem. There's so many spots to fill. It's nice to see New England have legitimate NFL players on their roster again, and not like these solid college guys that have no business being in the NFL. That's what they were doing.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick had bad talent to prove he was a good coach.
I'll disagree. I don't care if the Patriots are good. Do you?
Oh, no, I don't actually care. I just think Drake May might be special.
Donkey.
He is, but
he got weird vibes. But dude, May, he doesn't look like it. He's a crazy athlete.
He's not invited to the cookout. I can tell you
that. Jim Root, our guy on Mondays with College Hoops, 3-Man Weave coming up next. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. Now back to VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
Yeah, Bill AD has gone crazy. The paywall is down over at VSiN.com. So if you want to become a pro, it doesn't cost anything. You get Jim Root's picks, you get the big guys' picks, you get everybody's picks for free. Also, the betting splits. It's really just a tremendous place, a resource to become a better, more sophisticated, better. VSiN.com/Champ Week. That's VSIN.com/Champ Week. No cost, no commitment right now. It's part of the week I always look forward to at the beginning here. Jim Root, three-man weave, the athletic college basketball writer at Second Chance Points to talk college hoops. And it's 3 for the Golden Grizzlies, Jim. Let's go, Greg Kampe. It's funny because I was thinking about, right before you came on, I was thinking about Oakland and NC State last year. NC State beats Oakland, ends up in the Final Four, and they just fired their coach, didn't they?
They sure did. Yeah, it was rather shocking. I think a lot of people didn't see that coming, but it was, I don't want to say like a long time coming, but I think if they had lost in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament last year, he would have been fired. So 1 year later, they missed the ACC tournament entirely. I sort of get it in the totality of his resume, but man, it's tough a year after a Final Four.
Yeah, they probably wanted to make that move last year, and then unfortunately or fortunately, they start winning games. So that's always difficult. We've got a lot of really interesting small conferences wrapping up here, Jim. I'm just curious for our audience who, is getting ready to set their brackets once they come out next Sunday. We're less than a week away from Selection Sunday now. Is there a team that jumps out to you that you saw go off over this first weekend of these conference tournaments that we should keep our eye on? Is it someone like Drake? Is there someone else out there?
That's a good question. Drake, they're not going to like blow you away with scoring, but they're going to be really tough to beat because they play the slowest pace in the entire country, don't really beat themselves. They can force turnovers. They got some shooters, and they just play really well together. It helps to have 4 guys that were on Division II national champion together. That certainly helps. And then the coach is just terrific. He's won everywhere he's gone. So Drake could definitely be one of those teams. Omaha won the Summit League. I'm skeptical of their defense, and Summit League defenses typically get torched in the NCAA tournament, the one Oral Roberts Sweet 16 run notwithstanding. But, man, they have great vibes around the team right now. They do this thing after they win where they destroy a trash can with wrestling moves in the locker room, and they've just been rolling. Like, if you throw out their November, December results, they were clearly the best team in the Summit, and they proved it. Even winning that tournament title when they didn't have to. Like, they were already in the dance, and they still brought it in that championship game. So they could be somebody that at least gets up early. One of my favorite bets every year, Dustin, is the first to 10 or first to 15, that type of stuff. Omaha's a team that could easily do that with their shooting and just kind of they're going to punch you in the mouth with their offense right away. Might not last for 40 minutes, but I think that'd be a fun early bet.
Yeah, I misspoke. Golden Grizzlies didn't make it to the Sweet 16 second round, but they did lose in overtime to NC State, who went on to the Final Four. And right now, Horizon, Kampe, who's a game under 500, is up 3, Jim, 74-71 over the 1 seed in the Horizon, Robert Morris.
Yeah, Oakland look like they're going to try to do it again. They've got an awesome front court. Alan David McKeeba is a transfer from Kansas City. He's been fantastic tonight against the 1 seed, a team that's really good in the paint, Robert Morris. And then for everyone that remembers Jack Golke, and who could forget, bombs away off the bench, they've got a Canadian guy named Malcolm Christie who comes off the bench and is similar-ish. He's not quite Golke level, but he'll take 10 or 15 threes if you let him. He'll fire away when he comes in. So Kampe just kind of unearthing that same sort of shooter, and he still plays that tricky zone defensively that it can confound teams if they're not really ready for it and prepared. So maybe not quite the high level of talent last year, and they did have some injuries this year that limited them. But if they get in the tournament, they're going to be a tough out because they're well coached, they can shoot, and they got some athletes.
I want to go back to Saturday because the big one, Jim, was Alabama getting some revenge on Auburn on the road in Auburn, winning 93-91 in overtime. I mean, obviously there's going to be no defense from the Tide, right? Can that offense be consistent enough in the NCAA or even the SEC tournament coming up here? Like, how do you see them competing in the SEC tournament first, then maybe onto the bigger national tournament?
Yeah, the SEC is going to be a heck of a tournament. It's just a gauntlet. Like, you basically have 4 teams lined up for a 1 or a 2 seed waiting in the quarterfinals. Like, good luck trying to run through that. It might be harder for a team to win 5 in 5 days there than it would be to win the NCAA tournament. I bet we hear that on CBS a couple times as we watch that one. But yeah, Alabama, the offense can go off. I just, the thing that gives me pause with them, along with the defense, is offensively they let so many guys have the green light from beyond the arc. And that's where I think the inconsistency comes. Like, I'm not worried about Mark Sears. I'm not worried about Chris Youngblood and their ability to shoot. And even Aiden Holloway's up over 40%. But like, if Grant Nelson and Diabate and Aiden Sherrill and Jaron Stevenson are going to get up 10 or 15 threes combined as teams just kind of sag off them, most of the time they're going to miss those. And Nelson played great. He had a huge late 3 against Auburn on Saturday. But most of the time, he's not going to go 3 for 6 from deep. He's going to go 0 for 2 like he has most of the season. And that's kind of what those big guys are going to do. So that's my concern, is the total embrace of the 3 and giving everybody a green light can sometimes backfire if it's bad shooters taking the shots.
Boys, I turned my head and I turned it back, and Robert Morris has tied it up.
Yeah, that happened while I was answering. Man, it's been a wild.
I guess you saw it. They obviously hit a 3, but I didn't see it go down. So Oakland, the 6 seed Horizon, 1 seed Robert Morris, tied at 74. I believe it's going to be Oakland's ball with about 3.3 seconds to play. So can't be drawing up a play. We'll have it live here, VSiN live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. We're talking to our buddy, our college basketball insider, Jim Root, 3-man weave, the Athletic, college basketball writer, Second Chance Points on Twitter. Big Ten tournament, your favorite going into it. Remember, they expanded to 18, just 15 teams in. Michigan State's going to be your favorite. And Sparty Party in East Lansing last night, they sweep the season series against Michigan 79-62. Were dominant last night, Jim.
Yeah, Michigan State's excellent. They are really high floor because the way they rebound, the way they kind of dominate some of those extras. They're a shot volume monster because you're not getting second chances against them, but they're getting a ton themselves. So that makes it really hard to handle them. The shooting comes and goes. Most of the time it's going, which is a problem, but they're not a team that I think is going to be overly prone to an upset unless someone gets super duper hot from deep, which hasn't happened really against them. They're top 5 nationally in 3-point percentage defense. No one has made threes. You go back to, I think it was 9 years ago when Denzel Valentine and the 2-seed Spartans lost to Giddy Potts, if anybody remembers that name, from Middle Tennessee. 2 versus 15 upset there, and Middle Tennessee got hot and made some threes. That could be a vulnerability for Michigan State, but their physicality, their consistency, I would expect that to prevail. I think the team I like most in the Big Ten tournament, the one I'm going to have a couple dollars on here, is Wisconsin. They kind of struggled at the end of the season there. That loss to Penn State at home after they were up big early was confusing because Penn State wasn't playing for anything. But that was without Max Klesmit. A couple of those games down the stretch were without him, and he should be back for this tournament, back to full health. Gives them another shooter, another playmaker, score on the perimeter, so teams can't focus as much as on Atonje and Blackwell. So I'm looking for Wisconsin to make a run there. They did it last year in this tournament, and this is an even better version of them. So the Badgers are my pick in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Wisconsin, it's a good number. I'm seeing plus 650 out there. I just can't go favorite in a lot of these conference tournaments just because a lot of them have their situation locked up for the big dance, and you don't know how many games they actually want to win, how many they want to play. And for Wisconsin, it's an offensive team that can score with anyone this year. So I agree with you there. How about the Big 12, Jim, where it just feels like there's a lot of options out there? Is there any team that you think is worth a flyer on pre-Big 12 tournament starting tomorrow?
I've been going back and forth between 2 here in the Big 12. The first one's Texas Tech, just because I think they're incredible. And I like that they're on the opposite side of the draw from Houston. They've got a good amount of depth. Where they can play 8 or 9 guys, and they can play a different style each game. They can play slow, play fast, play big, play small. The roster gives them that kind of flexibility, and they're super well coached. So that's one I'm looking at. They're around like 4-1, a little lower than that in most places. And then the other side of the bracket, I'm probably going to end up putting a little on BYU. I think they're 13-1 at FanDuel. And it's in large part because I think Iowa State might have some stuff going on that behind the scenes isn't all that great. Like Keyshawn Gilbert might miss another game. They're saying hip injury. I'm I've heard people say that it's more than that with him. There's maybe some chemistry or something going on there, which is obviously not great for at this point in the season. And with BYU playing so well, just on a massive winning streak down the stretch, you end up getting Houston in the semis. That is scary, but Houston hasn't won a game by double digits in 3 weeks, which is not, it's really atypical for them. They're typically blowing teams out. So I think BYU playing well, not as worried about the 5 seed there, and has a chance at the 1. That's one I'm considering if it's up in double digits. I think FanDuel has 13-1 was last I saw.
We're going to overtime in the horizon. So the Golden Grizzlies, they had it. And now it's a tie ball game as we head to overtime. Jim Root joining us. The ACC, I don't know if it's worth betting anything here because you're only a big price with Duke. And I can't imagine anybody picking another team outside of Duke. Is like maybe Louisville. Is that? I don't know if that's where you want to go, Jim.
Yeah, Louisville's kind of banged up right now. I don't think Louisville can beat Duke either. They're just not able to hold up athletically and physically inside the way that Clemson did at Clemson when Clemson pulled off that upset. So Clemson would be the one team that I could see if you wanted to go on a future here early, because I think they'll beat beat Louisville in the semis, and I kind of like their path. But yeah, it's Duke's tournament. The one loss at Clemson was tough road environment. You're not going to get that here in this tournament. They're much healthier. They got Malik Brown back against UNC, and he was fantastic. Like, he might be the best defender in the conference. He had some great passes. He also hit a 3. And then Tyrese Proctor has looked healthy too since his little knee hyperextension or bone bruise, whatever it was. So I'm guessing that's going to be Duke's tournament to win. The odds certainly reflect that, something like minus 350 to win 3 games, which is crazy. But yeah, the strength of Duke and really the strength of Clemson too make me not, last year we had NC State go through this event, and with only 3 NCAA tournament caliber teams, you would think this would be vulnerable for a bid stealer. But I think the disparity is so large between the haves and the have-nots that I'm not expecting that.
We touched on the SEC. Is there a team with a number that you think is interesting there? Just because Auburn's a 1 seed, right? That's locked up. Florida, a 1 seed. That's locked up. Is there someone that you think has something to prove by stealing the bid in the SEC? Could it be, I don't know. I mean, they're all pretty much bound for the NCAA tournament, but there are big numbers next to teams like Kentucky 19-1, A&M 25-1, Missouri, your team 25-1. Is there anyone worth a flyer that's longer?
I think A&M's the one with the path that intrigues me. They're sitting at the 5 seed, likely going to get a team that doesn't concern me too much, whether it's Vanderbilt or Texas. A&M can out-rebound both those teams pretty consistently. And then your quarterfinal matchup is Tennessee, which is going to be a brawl, coin flip type of physical mess. And they're weirdly the team that matches up maybe best with Auburn in this entire conference because of the offensive rebounding. I mean, Florida, I guess, also does too, but they're so good that matchup isn't really the concern with them. But A&M's, their offensive rebounding, it gets to Auburn. That's a kind of a weakness for that team because they've got such great shot blocking that they're not always in great defensive rebounding position. Aggies are pretty good at taking advantage of that. So maybe the path is there for them. And then if I had to go one of those mega long shots, a team playing on the first day, Oklahoma is mildly interesting to me. It's 250-1. Maybe they'll lose to Georgia right away. Georgia's on a win streak. But Oklahoma's played really well. They were right there with Kentucky. They were right there at Ole Miss. Lost those games basically on buzzer beaters, and then have had a couple big wins besides that recently at Texas and against Missouri. Maybe you get the Sooners to the quarterfinal and you can start thinking about what you want to do with that. But, obviously it's 250-1 for a reason.
As an aside, can either of you, Dustin, you lived in Atlanta, and I know it's Athens. Can anybody ever explain to me why Georgia can't win basketball games? There's so much talent in that state. I always said with the football team, if you put a fence around the state and just recruit inside of it, you can win a national championship. Kirby's done it. Georgia just has never clicked, right?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, Tom Crean tried. He had Anthony Edwards there, and they've now got another likely NBA lottery pick in Asa Newell, and they're winning. They're going to make the tournament. That's an accomplishment for them with Mike White. That hasn't been the case much recently. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe the draw of oh, there's somebody really, really good in Georgia. Well, he wants to go play at Kentucky, or he wants to go play at Tennessee, or now Alabama and Auburn are playing such fun styles and they're elite. Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates are, casting a fishing line over that fence and scooping out of Georgia, unfortunately. I'm curious. It is such a football school, but so are Alabama and Auburn, and look where they are. Perhaps the right
Florida?
coach can get them. Yeah, Florida too.
Yeah.
Perhaps the right coach can get them to be a both school.
I think you have a couple problems there with Georgia. One, I like that you mentioned Kentucky because that's essentially the reverse of Kentucky. So the way everyone in Kentucky thinks about Kentucky basketball and Kentucky football, it's the opposite in Athens. And then secondly, I think the state is a little bit more difficult to recruit than you think, just because in a lot of states, the best athletes end up playing basketball that are that size. Well, in Georgia, football is just so much bigger than basketball. I think you have a lot of kids that if they were going to choose one sport or the other, football is what they want to do, even though basketball has the more upside for them. I think a lot of kids get caught choosing football over basketball when they probably have a brighter future in basketball.
Fair enough. Let me ask you, and Robert Morris up 3, $1.55 to play. Man, Campy and Oakland's going to be kicking themselves in the ass. They had that game late. Mountain West. So I'm going to ask you about this conference just because it's always intriguing come tournament time. They never win anything outside of San Diego State, but there's always like intrigue around the conference, especially when I was living in Vegas. New Mexico is going to be your favorite going into the tournament at 250, 2.5 to 1. Utah State not far behind, plus 330. Colorado State plus 350. Boise plus 425. Anything here? San Diego State 7 to 1.
Yeah, San Diego State 7 to 1 would be an interesting price for me. The one I'm kind of waiting to pull the trigger here because of injury news with the Aztecs. Magoon Guath, their big shot blocking center, is started to do some like light contact work. He missed the last few games of the season. I mean, he's like one of the best 5 shot blockers in the country, and their interior defense is a different level when he's on the court. So I'm gonna wait and see if he's gonna be available. At least maybe up till I can wait till Wednesday and find out if there's many more updates on that. If it's not San Diego State, then it's going to be Colorado State for me. I just like the path a lot more, being on that 2 seed side of the bracket away from New Mexico, San Diego State, and Boise. The only like really good team over there is Utah State, and Colorado State just beat them by like 30. They just diced up the zone that Utah State runs. I think that's a really good matchup for the Rams, and they're playing really well lately. Not quite into the bubble mix, but they're kind of on the periphery and lurking around there. That's how good they've been lately. So between path and just the trend line of that team, intrigued by Colorado State. But like I said, if Guath plays for San Diego State, I'll dabble that one.
All right, Jim, let's dig deep. You've got to play in the MAC tournament. And it's not the MAC, it's the MAC with the extra A. I grew up near Marist. That was like the local D1 school for me. So I know the names. I've never watched any of them really play all that much. When you're looking at these tournament odds, and it starts tomorrow for the MAC with the extra A in the middle, who jumps out to you as worthy of a play?
Yeah, it's not a conference I typically do well betting on. It's like a Friday, Sunday schedule most of the time, and I dread those Friday, Sunday games because there's so many of them. But I am going to go with Iona here, a name that fans of March Madness may know. Rick Pitino was there before St. John's, got them to the tournament. Then they replaced Pitino with Tobin Anderson, the coach of Fairleigh Dickinson, who beat Purdue. And he hasn't quite had the success I think that many anticipated for a program that's pretty storied in this conference. But they trended up really well late in the year, arguably the best team in the league since the start of February. They've got a lot of talent. Some of it was just didn't come together fast because they turned over the roster big time relative to last year. And then they had one guard, Christian Winborn, who missed a lot of the non-conference. So they weren't quite whole until later in the year, and that's when they started to look really good. And mostly, I just don't trust the top 3 here. Quinnipiac won the league last year, did not win the conference tournament. Merrimack's kind of up and down. They play too slow, and teams have started to solve their zone a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit. And then Marist, the 3 seed, has been horrible the last 3 weeks of the season. Nearly fell out of the group of buys at the top of the conference. So I'll take a swing at Iona. I think some other people like Manhattan based on their trend, but those two play each other in the 4-5 game right away. But I'm going to go with Iona.
Our buddy Jim Root, 3-man weave, the Athletic, college basketball writer, second chance points with a 2. on Twitter. I want to ask you about the A10. I know it's not on the list, but Thomas Gable, who runs the race and sportsbook at the Borgata, he has been talking up VCU all year. Thinks they're pretty legit. VCU is going to be a minus $1.20 favorite in that conference tournament. Should they be that favored? And do you think this is a team that's legit?
I think that's heavy price wise. Like I odds on for this kind of a wide open tournament is too extreme for me. I can't back them, but they are legit. They've got 4 really good guards and they've got an elite interior defense. You kind of put those things together, and that's why they were so dominant during the year. They kind of burned themselves with the loss late at home to Dayton. Last game of the year might hurt their at-large chances, but they didn't have their kind of disruptive point guard off the bench, Phil Russell. He's kind of an attitude type guy, gets things going for him. And so not having him to set the tone, I think, hurt a little bit. So yeah, just not loving their value. That makes me look further down the board. A couple teams that play on Thursday in the second round. St. Louis at 20-1. I have been really interested in because I love their coach. Josh Schertz was at Indiana State last year, brought a couple starters with him. They've got 3 high-end players with Swope, Avila from Indiana State, and then Gibson Jimerson, all-time leading scorer in school history. So they've got some real upside. They just have no depth. So winning 4 games in 4 days could be tough for them. That's the concern. And then GW, George Washington's the other one I like. Pretty crazy odds for a team that's young and volatile, but they can get hot for a stretch. And they've got some interior defense. Rafael Castro's the center that transferred from Providence. Got a bunch of scoring on the perimeter and a matchup nightmare in Darren Buchanan. I don't mind their draw. George Mason plays low scoring, slow games. That's a team that can get upset in the quarterfinals. So between the path and the talent, George Washington also intrigues me.
All right, what about the Big East now, Jim? Because full disclosure, I've got St. John's 50-1 to win the whole thing, and I'm very concerned about how trendy they've become, how popular they've become. They're your favorite in the betting market, plus 155 to win the Big East tournament. And here's the problem. They don't shoot the 3 well, and they don't hit their free throws. So I don't know if you can bet that there. Is there another team that you think can go on a heater here? Is it UConn finally putting it together at 4-1? Is it Marquette, who really stumbled down the stretch, figuring it out when it matters here at plus 550? Who's the team in the Big East that you'd like to have a number on?
Yeah, I don't love the St. John's price either. I'm with you there. And Marquette, I'm staying far away from. They haven't beat an NCAA tournament team since January 3rd. Like they just kind of have swooned in league play. I'm looking at either Xavier to make a run. They play Marquette in that first round. They're back against the wall right now, bubble-wise. They need a win. And they've been playing well late. They got a soft schedule to end the year, but they did win the games they needed to and mostly did so convincingly. They've got a bunch of guards. They've got a fifth-year senior big man in Fremantle. And I think Sean Miller's a pretty good coach. It seems like they have gotten the trajectory going and the train going in the right direction. So I did take a little bit of them at 12-1. I don't know if that's out there anymore. 10-1 would probably be my limit for where I'd invest with them. The other one I'm looking at, and I'm considering if I'm going to make this mistake or not, is Villanova. They could be, and they're going to get comparisons by people to NC State last year, and I've got an article coming in The Athletic in 2 days. It's going to make this comparison. But they've got the upside to go on a run in a conference that's somewhat vulnerable. Their past not bad. Seton Hall, worst team in the conference to start. Then they go to they play UConn, who they beat once and competed with a second time. And they've got this similar kind of like big time lefty front court scorer. You know, Eric Dixon's not DJ Burns, but he can do some similar things in terms of the way he impacts the game. The question with them is coaching and maximizing talent. Kyle Neptune's probably getting fired whenever their season ends. So that's going to be a strange implication hanging over their head. But they're going to play all night games. Could be some magic at Madison Square Garden. I'm at least intrigued by Villanova, and I'm considering whether I'm going to bet them too or not.
Boys, I just looked at the national championship market. Texas Tech, who I know Jim likes a lot, isn't 35-1 pretty long on that team?
I have it. Let's go. Let's family bet. Let's do it. Red Raiders.
I think so. What's not to like? They're probably going to get a 2 or a 3 seed, depending on how they do here in the Big 12 tournament. They're 7th in KenPom. Like, everything indicates that they're one of these elite teams right up there with Michigan State or Iowa State, and I assume all those teams have shorter odds than them.
Oh yeah, Michigan State's 20-1.
Yeah, that doesn't really add up to me. I think Texas Tech's got a higher ceiling with the way their guards can get hot. One guy to keep an eye on, freshman Christian Anderson. He's been terrific. Like fringe, he was inside the top 100 as a recruit, but I think people thought he was too small to contribute right away. And he is just a no fear shot maker. He's given them a huge boost in some big games, coming off the bench and just being a spark. In his last 4 games, he's made, or last 5, 4 threes, 3 threes, 5, and an over 6 game, and they lost, but then 5 threes against West Virginia. So you have that kind of scoring to go with the consistency of Darian Williams, their big playmaker, JT Toppin, the All-American in the paint, and then Elijah Hawkins at point guard. I think they've got really anything you need to win big, and I love their coach. He's another guy that's just won everywhere he's been, low levels, mid-major, and now at Texas Tech.
All right, so we'll have, next time you come on, we'll have the bracket set. We'll be previewing the first 4. But before we get there, just curious, what's the recipe you look for when backing teams in the NCAA tournament? Like, what are the things, the stats that jump out to you, or maybe the roster construction that you look for in teams to back in March Madness?
I typically start with coach. I mean, do I trust this coach? And if I'm looking at an 8-9 game and it's a coach who I think has done a pretty good job maximizing talent in his career against a team that sometimes makes me pull my hair out and turns the ball over and takes bad shots, and I'm always going to back the smarter coach. It doesn't always work, but that's just, I'm more comfortable doing it that way. And then statistically, I think shot volume is a big thing to try to look at. Teams that win on the glass and win the turnover battle, maybe they're not going to be great shooters. I'm looking at you, St. John's and Michigan State, but they are good enough to get more shots than their opponent, and the way they kind of manipulate the numbers, the math will tend to lean their way more often than not. So that's definitely something I'm looking at. And roster construction, you love experienced guards. It's a cliche, but I think it's got that way for a reason. So teams with veterans that can make plays at the end of games, that can kind of keep calm if the other team goes on a run, settle it down a little bit. That's also something I try to look for in terms of picking teams to go far.
Okay, Jim, last one, and then we'll let you get back to the basketball. This is just kind of a selfish question, but Florida and Houston are essentially, Florida 7-1, Houston 7.5-1. National of the two, who do you prefer, Florida or Houston?
Oh boy, I love both teams, but I'll say Florida. I think they've just got a little bit more of a gear offensively, and I know Houston is making shots this year. They're top 5 nationally in 3-point percentage, but a lot of their games are just such slogs where it does come down to 2 or 3 plays, and they make them most of the time because they're such a high effort team. But Florida, I think, can win in more varying ways, where if they got to play a track meet, if they've got to score a ton, they can do that. They've got the guards that can do that. They've got the depth to make that happen. Or if it's more of a grinder, more of a half court physical game, they've got 4 bodies in the front court that are like 6'11", 7 foot that can dominate the glass. They can make a couple shots from deep. Thomas Houck has really started to add that to his game. And then Alex Condon has been borderline all conference since he came back from his little ankle injury. So Florida has just like completely wowed me this year, the way they've elevated from where they were ranked in the preseason. And I think they'll be right there at the end of the tournament.
Great stuff. Jim Root, 3-Man Weave, the Athletic college basketball writer, of course, Second Chance Points on Twitter. By the way, Robert Morris did win, boys. Oakland had an opportunity in the semis, Horizon. Oakland, I don't know if you saw it, Jim, but Oakland had an opportunity with time expiring to tie it with a 3, just misses, so Campy is out.
That hurts. That hurts. He gave us his magic last year. Would have loved to have a repeat performance, but maybe it'll be Bobby Moe that delivers.
Bobby Moe, Robert Morris. Jim, thanks, man. We'll talk to you next week. Always fun.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. Does a great job, Jim Root. Down go the Golden Grizzlies.
Well, there's a positive there. I'll give you the silver lining.
I know what you're going to say.
It means next week I'm going to text Greg Gampy. He's going to come on the show. He is like our most consistent every year guest, and he's awesome every time.
Didn't the donk at Iowa State come on the show?
Prom? A bunch.
Where's he now?
He's still at Iowa State. Steve Prom?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's at Murray State. Murray State. He was at Iowa Back
State.
at Murray. He was originally Murray, then Iowa. You know who I want to get on? We're having a show meeting on the air. Do you remember when we had, it was like our first trip to the South Point with VSiN when we were just at Mad Dog. Travis Ford, who was at Oklahoma State, had Marcus Smart, then was at St. Louis. He doesn't have a job right now. And the first time we had him on, I'll never forget, he said, man, I'm jealous of you guys. I'd rather be playing blackjack in Vegas than sitting where I'm at right now. And he was still a college coach at that time. I want to get him on next week, too, to talk March Madness.
Yeah, you know you're a degenerate if you're coaching at a school and talking about wanting to throw cash at the blackjack tables. That man's might have a life leak.
He might have been in the NIT, too. He was more focused on blackjack strategy than the NIT at that point. But yeah.
Kind of a donk as a coach.
Yeah. Well.
It didn't really work out. 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. The updates coming in hot and heavy with NFL free agency. We'll update you next. And live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
4 minutes.
Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Maher and Dustin Swedelson.
VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Naya producing, Ryan as well. Of course, we've got the YouTube live stream going. Stop by, say hello. VSiN Live on YouTube. Give us a sub and a little thumbs up there. Helps us out with the algo. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Maher. Now, one thing I did want to mention before we get back to the free agency is we sprung forward, and it's freaking awesome.
Oh, it's great.
Because I'm looking outside right now. It's still light out.
Just a little bit.
Sunset 6:57 where your boy's at. I still got 20 more minutes of light. Just walked out to get the dog a bone, and I was like, it's light outside.
Oh, you know what? I didn't think about it from your perspective. You get a little bit more sunlight than everyone else because the sun's got to go down past the ocean. I'm just realizing this.
Yeah, little east-west action, brother. Picking that up. In the summer, sunsets at like 8 o'clock here, not 8:30.
That's a beautiful thing. It's literally a full day. This morning I felt it, like in a good way, where I woke up early and the sun was already starting to come up. There's nothing worse than waking up before the sun. You don't want to beat the sun to anything.
All right. Well, I don't know what to say.
It's not my best work.
Use check has been released. The 49ers are kind of a disaster right now. They're just trying to clear space, and they released 9-time Pro Bowl fullback Kyle Juszczyk. 9-time Pro Bowler at fullback. You don't have a ton of competition.
No. But hold on. Here's the list for the 49ers. Juszczyk, offensive lineman Aaron Banks, Hufanga, Ward, the corner, Greenlaw. They traded Debo. Is the window over for Kyle Shanahan?
That's your boy. They're trying to get a deal done with Brock Purdy. Maybe that's the big news they're waiting to announce.
Well, when you pay Brock Purdy $50 million, gone goes all the depth that you had that helped get you here. Like, that's what they benefited from for so many years, was that Brock Purdy made no money. They invested everywhere else on the roster, and now we're going to have to find out how good of a coach Kyle Shanahan is because they're about to pay Brock Purdy.
Chase Young is returning to the Saints, has agreed to an extension. I think he was okay last year. It doesn't matter. Like, if we're talking about the Saints, move on, because they're going to be terrible.
Who did they steal that money from? They don't. How are they paying people? Aren't they in the hole? It's like owing someone money and going out and buying a new car. What are we talking about here? How are the Saints buying any free agents?
Najee Harris to the Chargers. Not overly exciting.
Yeah, but Jim Harbaugh loves running the football. He loves slow running the football.
Yeah, but there's the one person I don't want running the football. It would be, I don't know. Maybe Najee's better than I give him credit for. He just, every time I look up, it looks like he's running in slow motion.
Yeah, no, it looks like his feet are stuck in quicksand and he's trying to like lift them up and make some moves happen. But I mean, for that team, I thought they were going to get DK Metcalf. They desperately need someone opposite or someone to go and be the number one receiver for Justin Herbert. It can't be Ladd McConkey again. He can't be the guy catching 1 million balls every game.
Anything else that you would like to report?
Were those the three that I sent updated? Those were the three big ones that have happened during the show. Outside of that, we haven't really talked that much about the Rams. Devontae, we mentioned, they bring in Puna Ford from the Chargers, a defensive tackle. They need some veterans on that defensive side of the football. And then if your boy Matthew Stafford goes down, Jimmy Garoppolo just decided, yeah, I'm cool being a backup, getting $11 million for a 1-year deal there.
Yeah, the Rams are going to be a legit Super Bowl contender this year. There's no way around it. And we talked about it with the quarterback position. The serious organizations and the serious organization. But by the way, the Giants offered him more money, that being Stafford. And we told you he wasn't going to uproot his family. At this age, he and his wife want to live in LA, took less money to stay here. And if you have Stafford, you're a Super Bowl contender. And if you don't, you're not.
So you mentioned the Giants, and the Giants are going to make a move at quarterback here. They want Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers apparently want Aaron Rodgers. Are we actually going to have a bidding war over Aaron Rodgers between the Giants and the Steelers, two completely different organizations right now? And is he actually going to get like a lot of money because of it?
Well, one thing I will mention is I just said that the sun is setting right next to me here at 6:57, right off the coast, the ocean. You can throw a rock and hit it, not flexing, just legit. But right down the coast is a little place called Malibu. Now, last time I checked, Pittsburgh and New Jersey are not in the NFC West. And isn't that what Aaron said he wanted?
Aaron said he wanted to go to a team that was winning, that wanted him, and played in warm weather. I would say no, the Giants are not on that list. The Steelers are at least winning, but they don't really fit the rest of it. I'm after our conversation with Alan Saunders, who covers the Steelers, I'm wondering if the national media has got it completely wrong when it comes to Aaron Rodgers just happening in Pittsburgh. Like, it's just a done deal. I'm not so sure that that's happening just based on his vibe.
Yeah, but it's not just the national media. Check out the betting market as well.
Yeah, so right now,
Big time.
you've got two favorites on top of the board. It's the Steelers and the Giants both at plus 125 to land Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, but the betting market was wrong about Davante Adams. The Rams were like the fourth shot on the board at plus 750, and that's where he ended up. So
fair enough. Not saying the market's always going to be right, but it does feel like it makes the most sense. I thought when they signed DK Metcalf, like the way that the gentleman we had on, what was his name?
Alan Saunders.
Yeah, Alan Saunders. He does a good job covering the Steelers. The way that he was talking was that they were just going to, ho-hum it through this year. And I feel like you're wasting a year of Metcalf. Like, that was their big investment. That led me to believe that they're going for it now, but okay, maybe.
No, I mean, if I'm the Steelers, I just think with that defense, you have an opportunity to be so competitive in so many games. And by the way, the schedule is going to be easier than it was last year. That schedule last year was insane. If I would do a bunch of different things at quarterback, I would sign Rodgers. I would maybe bring in Daniel Jones with him in a backup role, and I would draft a damn quarterback in this class in the second or third round. I would go all in to make sure I have everything covered when it comes to getting improved quarterback play.
I would skip every quarterback in this draft.
Even in the third round?
This is typical talking. This is when teams you talk yourself into. I mean, you might get lightning in a bottle and hit, but this class stinks.
No, but
Texans stinks. You love him.
No, I don't want him. I want Jalen Milroe, who stinks even more. I want Quinn Ewers, who I hated watching play at Texas. So I get where I'm with you. You're right. I've talked myself into all these guys, but I think there's always someone. There's always someone in every class. And I just think we've gotten it wrong with who is like the second and third quarterback in this class. There's a chance it's Milroe if he's schemed up right. I really do think there's a chance it's Quinn Ewers in the right situation for him to develop just because he's still super young, but play right away and make an impact. I don't believe there is a guy outside of Cam Ward in this class, and I don't really buy Cam Ward either.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're just joining us and you haven't been paying attention to free agency, let me give you the biggies. Myles Garrett, he went from being upset and not happy, requesting a trade, and then he got like $1 billion in guaranteed money, and he is happy to be a Cleveland Brown. So the Hall of Famer sticks around with the Cleveland Browns, which is funny. I think the under-the-radar signing, because a couple of years ago, when he's on, he is incredible. And you put him, opposite of Puka Nacua, who's going to draw a lot of attention, Dustin. Like, I think Davante Adams with Stafford and McVay drawing up plays, it could be tasty.
I mean, has Davante Adams ever had an offensive mastermind like Sean McVay trying to get him the football? I just think this is a great toy for McVay to play with. You have to focus so much on the physicality of Nacua. Adams runs every damn route. He has a quarterback in Stafford who can get him the ball deep, get the short ones there accurately and quickly. It is the perfect spot for Davante Adams to end up in, is with the Rams. I love this move. If they just add a couple pieces on defense, the Rams are going to win the West. That's the vibes I'm getting. The Rams are going to win the NFC West. I also think we have a complete shift in the NFC East. I know the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They have lost multiple pieces today off of that defense. Josh Sweat goes to Arizona. Milton Williams goes up to Foxborough to the Patriots. I think it's so hard to keep those teams together that are successful like that. And you look at what Washington's done this offseason. Today they trade for Tunsil. Last 2 weeks ago, they add Deebo Samuel. It's Washington's division. That might be the parlay play. You parlay the Rams to win the West. You parlay it with Washington to win the East. Get a nice little plus price there because I think both those divisions have completely shifted this week.
Legend. I'm going to wrap up that parlay for 9 months. get paid $323. You hang out with Jared Smith?
No, I'm not. Just for the record, I want that out there.
Well, you might be.
I have no friends. Stop. You're my only friend.
No, but you have a girlfriend now, so you're good. Anything else? DK Metcalf, obviously, we talked about that. JC Horn, if you're into that type of thing. Cornerbacks don't really move in the needle, but the South Carolina product, the highest paid cornerback in football with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, the Buccaneers kept Chris Godwin, who I think was flirting with the Patriots at one point.
Godwin was great before the injury.
He's awesome. He's just getting older. You just wonder, like, at what point are you paying for a guy who's not going to produce anymore? But he was super productive. And I like that Tampa's running it back. He goes back there. Evans is still there. They got Baker locked up. Defense will be good. They added Hassan Reddick today. So that'll be a nice piece for Todd Bowles to scheme with that defense. They're probably winning that division too, Tampa Bay. So I like what the Bucs did.
I like what the Bears are doing.
God, yeah.
Can we really grade offensive linemen? No, but they've completely rebuilt their offensive front.
Joe Thuney.
Obviously, that was a point of emphasis.
Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson, Drew Dahlman immediately get better there. I'm not going to say the kid's name, the rusher Odeyingbo, I believe it is, comes over, and Grady Jarrett, a massive addition for the defensive line. Look, for Ben Johnson in year one, you want to get infrastructure, you want to build your foundation, you do it at the line of scrimmage. That's what they're doing here. I love this as the rebuild for Chicago right now.
VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio. We'll close tabs coming back.
wrap up today's show. You see what I did there? Yeah. By finishing all of the conversations we touched on today. This is Closing Tabs.
All right. So, big guy Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Maher. Look, we're now starting to get to the bottom of the barrel. And I told you this last week, and I still believe there's something here because the team that wants to trade this dude freaking loves him. They love him. And you like their starter. As a matter of fact, you've got Drake May and the Patriots in the postseason next year because they signed Harold Landry. Joe Milton, take a shot. What's it going to take?
No, dude, you brought this up. This has been in my head since what was it, 2 weeks ago? This is the move, right? It's actually a better move than Justin Fields. I think you make
like with upside and just like raw ability and just
so much unknown. So by the way, some random person posted his highlights from the one game he played in this year. They were electric.
They're ridiculous. He has one of the best arms in football.
Oh, it's an all-time
size.
He can run. He's big. Yeah, look, if I was a team,
something must be missing, right? What is missing when you look like that? You have an arm like that. You're athletic like that. But I know New England likes him, but they literally have a franchise quarterback. We know Drake May is going to be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, look, for the Giants, I think he makes sense because he has a lot of the same physical traits that Josh Allen has, and Brian Daboll gets a lot of credit for what happened with Josh Allen's growth and development. That's why that would be a fit for me. You brought it up. Credit to you. You're the first one I heard say his name. I'm intrigued by Joe Milton.
Yeah, I'm looking at somebody posted like clips on Donk Talk. And dude,
he's electric.
Feed me that guy.
Yes. That is what you're
like
looking
if you're
for.
comparing him to like Daniel Jones or Russell Wilson or dare I say Sam Darnold.
Oh yeah.
If I was a Seattle Seahawks fan, I would be so freaking bitter. I'd rather give Fields a shot.
You emptied the wallet for Sam Darnold, and he has no offensive line and no weapons. What are we doing?
It's gonna get ugly. All right, let's close tabs. So somebody's gonna get lucky with Milton. That's all I'm saying.
So I don't know if you saw this story, but Steph Curry is returning to Davidson. He is now the assistant GM for basketball programs. I think the big thing that this tells you that the economy is rough, and Steph Curry needs a second job because he's probably like me and buys a lot of eggs every week at the grocery store.
I feel like he's probably busy with other duties. But it is going to be Steph Curry will bring attention with kids. He's just going to help recruit.
Obviously. All right. I mentioned the name Joey Gladstone. I don't remember why. Joey Gladstone was a character in Full House, Danny Tanner's best friend, a comedian, ventriloquist, and also a Red Wings fan like you. Next one here, closing tabs.
Dave Coulier.
Yeah, Dave Coulier. That's right. That's the name of the actor. Alanis Morissette. Not a fan. Yesterday was National Women's Day. And I was curious because I was like, well, what is today's National Day? So I went and looked. It's a lot of things. Before I get to the list, I have to, because of what I've learned here about what National Day it is, I have to shout out my girlfriend because I'm supposed to recognize her on this National Day because today is National Dishwasher Day. And she does a great job. There's never any spots. She kills it. When she comes to my house, she has rubber gloves right next to me, and she washes all of my dishes for me, so I'm genuinely thanking her for being my personal dishwasher. Also, it is National Barbie Day, National Meatball Day, National Crab Meat Day, and National Dry Shampoo Day.
Bruh, you just went on the air and congratulated your girlfriend for washing dishes?
Because it's National Dishwasher Day. I don't wash my dishes when she's here. She always does them for me, so I'm shouting her out.
Do you allow her to speak?
Yes, but the one thing she does is wash my dishes.
What is going on? I don't think you realize what you're saying right now.
No, I know what you're saying, but she genuinely does this. This is not shtick. This is a thing she does when she comes to my house.
Is she allowed to take contraception?
She's allowed to vote as well, in case you were wondering.
Shout to Woodrow Wilson, who was a freaking racist, but his wife made him legalize chicks being able to vote, which is tremendous. It's a great job. And okay, I guess I'll congratulate your girlfriend as well for being a good dishwasher.
She does a great job. I just want to give her credit where it's
You don't
due.
talk about her much. That seems like an odd way to bring her up.
Also, happy birthday, John Hamm, born on this day, 1971. Mad Men, great show.
Speaking of which, the big guy's birthday is tomorrow. If you'd like to give him a shout, at Dustin Swedelson, turning 40. That is the biggest donk 40-year-old you're ever gonna meet. And I'm not saying much about myself, people. Naya, great job. Ryan, great job. We'll see you tomorrow. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio.